Illuminati. The Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
Created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
What is up, everybody? This is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook live stream. Don't forget to grab Neofeud if you haven't yet. Everything that we do here is, of course, supported by the sales of that game Neofeud, as well as the subscriptions, the liking and sharing the stream, the other game, the Colonators, becoming a Patreon patron, of course, and supporting us in an ongoing way. consider how much the streams are worth to you and how much you can also afford, of course. And it would be greatly appreciated. And as always, we appreciate all the existing patrons for their continued support. Anyways, so yeah, so today I am going to be starting my music up here. Before I forget, I gotta get some moody music. I gotta get my moody soundtrack. By the way, this is the Neofeud soundtrack. This music here. Yeah, that's too loud. This is my Blade Runner send up, which is in the same theme as what we're gonna talk about. Which is speaking of the since we're talking about that briefly, I guess I will bring up the Neofeud soundtrack, which you can also, as another way you can support us, is by checking out the Neofeud soundtrack or picking it up on. It's actually on itch, it's on Steam, and it's also on Bandcamp, which I believe is being bought by Epic, which is going to be interesting. But anyway, while there's still a Bandcamp and not Epic Music Store, you can pick it up at Bandcamp, as well as other. This soundtrack you're listening to right now is from the Neofeud soundtrack, which I composed, and it's like 40 something, a lot of music. Anyways, so today we're going to be discussing, or at least I'm going to try to discuss at least a little bit, a movie that everybody is probably thinking about or seeing trailers for, or some combination thereof, trying to work on your first edited video, and that is the billionaire dweeb Noir and how CEO vigilantes can't save Gotham. That's what this movie is called. It's called Batman Billionaire Dweeb Noir. Noir. No, it's not. It's called the Batman Unmask the Truth. Only in theaters March 4th. But this is of course Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, and Colin Farrell. I can't remember everybody's in this movie. Is it Colin Farrell playing the Riddler? It's Colin Farrell playing Jim Carrey's Riddler, I believe. Yeah. So anyway, so the Batman is out, and since that's what everybody's gonna be talking about, we have to talk about it. So I'm not gonna only talk about this Batman, but the reviews are fairly good for it so far. It's been feels like any other Batman movie. Robert Pattinson is fusing his Edward Cullen ultra broody, ultra moody, ultra introspective, vampiric character into and also the love interest. Apparently there's a lot of chemistry between Robert Pattinson's Batman and Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman, which is good because I was talking about Storm the other week with X-Men, and unfortunately Halle Berry's cinematic universe's presence suddenly dropped significantly after Catwoman, the kind of car crash, or at least that's it was very much not the best of the comic book movies of the noughties. So I mean, it's good to hear that there's another, and the Catwoman in the the Batman Begins Dark Knight series. Who played that? What's her face? Anne Hathaway. It's Anne Hathaway, right? Anne Hathaway's Catwoman. It wasn't as catastrophic as the first Catwoman that kind of killed Halle Berry's. I won't say killed career, but just killed the presence of Halle Berry in a lot of these movies, and also anything to do with Catwoman for a while. But the Zoe Kravitz Catwoman is apparently very much. It's getting a lot of thumbs up. So, anyways, there's a lot going on in this movie. It's got you know, the Batman, a major theme is like Batman is not as like, you know, just to kind of go back to the what's his face, the original Batman, not the original Batman, the original goth Batman, Michael Keaton, not the silly slapstick, cartoon, holy cannolis Batman, holy snakes and ladders Batman, not the super comedic one, but Michael Keaton's Batman, actually Michael Keaton is interesting. He plays the Batman, and then he plays Birdman in the New York Broadway producers having an existential crisis. Is anybody gonna watch our shows anymore? Everybody's watching comic book movies. But the Birdman is almost like New York stage acting's kind of midlife crisis of, oh my god, this comic book bullshit is everywhere. Anyway, but Michael Keaton plays Batman, then he plays Birdman, and then he played the Vulture. So Michael Keaton is like the most avian, the most flappy of all actors. He plays so many birds or flying objects, Now if Michael Keaton could just play like it's a bird, it's a plane. If Michael Keaton played like a literal human anthropomorphized airplane, like as Plane Man, he would be Batman. A flying mammal, Birdman, right? A flying bird. And then he could also play Plane Man. And then Michael Keaton, and then he also plays the Vulture. He actually plays two birds, a mammal, and a mechanically engineered, artificial flying object. Or then he could play a UFO man, and Michael Keaton could be like a Roswell alien, And then he'll be, I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna stop joking about Michael Keaton's eternal flying character superheroes. Michael Keaton's Batman in the 80s, 90s, in the 20th century, he's very much like, see if I can get another picture of that. So Michael Keaton's Batman is very much like a billionaire. He's very much a billionaire playboy. I mean, he's a billionaire, philanthropist, playboy. I forget if he's the arms dealer, like Iron Man, right? Billionaire, philanthropist, arms dealer, playboy man. But he's definitely a billionaire, right? When he's not in his mask on mode, he's his character. I don't know if you remember it, but him and all the women in the shows, he's constantly they're flirting. He's very much at the fancy gala balls and the expensive champagne and these huge parties that he's throwing or attending, and it's very much like that. A lot of Batman Begins and Dark Knight just kind of has that flavor too. But he's just a player, and then he goes and be sad in his cave and thinks about his dead mommy and daddy with his and like he like cries into his wads of $100 bills, and he's like, ah! and then he goes to fancy parties, eats $10,000 gold leaf burgers and diamond encrusted caviar, and then he cries, and then he goes and punches some people, and it's very much like Elon Musk. He just like cries into how much money he has and whines that he doesn't have more money. Dates like escort models or whatever women he wants, and just sleeps around with whoever he wants, and then he goes and punches people. Elon Musk beats up on his unionized workers and breaks their unions, and beats up on his employees. You see him like throwing tantrums in some of his TED Talks. But anyways, Batman's character is very much a playboy. He's very smooth. I mean, he doesn't really do that much actual crying. I would say he doesn't do that much actual emoting in this one. He's just kind of like a smooth playboy, rich boy. And then he fights some crime in the night and beats people up and goes, "I am the night. I am Batman. I am the spirit of vengeance." He just says like kind of like hard ass bullshit. But he's definitely he's more a playboy. The Christian Bale Batman. The Christian Bale Batman is he's like kind of more dealing with how he was like he's like raised in this despotic authoritarian Asiatic city, because that's where bad things come from, is Asia, right? The hordes of he was raised in some Asiatic Mongolian torture den, and then what's his name, Qui-Gon Jinn's character, Qui-Gon Jinn, has to his trainer is his arch nemesis, and it's more of a Christopher Nolan is giving it a wider more international spin, but it's still kind of like I had all of these suffering and I had all these problems, and now I'm going to come back and I'm going to deal with it's not really clear exactly what, but it's just kind of like I have serious problems, I have way too much money. He's still whining and fine dining, with I think it's Maggie is Jake Gyllenhaal's sister, right? I believe. He's going to his fancy parties, He's like worried that how am I gonna use all of my weapons of mass destruction that I create, and he has EMPs in the series. He's got these EMPs that he can shut the whole city down. He's spying on everyone, and so Batman is kind of like he's like he's almost like I was talking about how X-Men 1 I was talking about the other week. X-Men 1 and then X-Men 2. X-Men 1 is like 2000, right? And the Statue of Liberty, and it's very 2000 movie. And then X-Men 2 is post 9/11, Patriot, Iraq War, the Forever War. You know what? Actually, this is an interesting time to bring up X2, because in the light of where the West is right now, which is we're right at the run up of it feels like a few days after 9/11 or right before the launch into the war in Iraq. It's like we're getting ready for war. We're demonizing and just completely wall to wall blotting everything out. Just being like, it's time to go and save the world. Because we are the strong, broody, goth, people have to put up with so much hard stuff being rich and powerful, right? It's so hard just to be so rich and so powerful. And so the world hegemon, and now we, the Batman, right? The billionaire philanthropist, arms dealer, playboy filled United States and West generally, have to go to Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, wipe out those Iranian weapons of mass destruction. I don't know, maybe there's some of them there. We got to go to Afghanistan. We have to clobber. We have to like punch so hard, like with like 10,000 Tomahawk missiles. All of those nasty terroristic goat herders. We got to go to Iraq, and we got to just like wipe out all of those hospitals because they are full of enemy combatants, child soldiers. Because Asians are nasty. And so, this moment is very much I'm gonna solve problems, right? As a rich, sad, white boy like Elon Musk, I'm gonna solve the world's problems with extreme violence. I'm gonna do it however outside the law. Who cares about international law? Who cares about this UN Declaration on Human Rights? Who cares about Geneva Conventions? Who cares? This is vigilante justice time, and America has to take justice into its own hands with any means necessary. Screw this, the French, fuck the EU, as Victoria Nuland would say. Screw these other countries that are saying this is a war of aggression. We have to go in there. We gotta clean it up, vigilante style, And Stryker is somebody who does that. He's like, I'm gonna clean up all of these mutants. We're gonna wipe them out. This is a problem. He's very much a Dick Cheneyan character, right? And now of course in Stryker in the X-Men is clearly like he's the nemesis of Wolverine. He's trying to kill he's kind of projected as the bad guy, which is what happens in the Republican years, which is that president in the in Hollywood is liberal, so it's going to project the current administration as the bad guy, even though it participates in all of this. the Democrats participate with the Republicans in all these wars and all the violence and all of this Wall Street, the capitalism and the military. But anyways, so back to Batman though. But I mean, I just thought that was an interesting crossover. And so Christian Bale's Batman, right, which came out, right, the Batman Begins Dark Knight. What was the series? Let me just get that straight. Batman, Christian Bale trilogy. You know, the Christian Bale trilogy came out. The Dark Knight trilogy, right, is a series that came out in 2005. So that's mid War on Terror, forever Middle East wars, right? Dark Knight 2008, Dark Knight Rises 2012. So, you know, and so that era is the height of the anti-Muslim Islamophobia, Iraq, you know, just this whole war on terror, which requires you giving up all, you know, all this stuff we're worried about, surveillance and all this stuff, you know, the run up to the 0809 subprime mortgage crisis, you know, that was this era where, you know, and famously, I think it was Scott Atran, who was somebody who actually was like trying to investigate how to prevent actual violence from Islamic terrorists. And he was like, you know, the thing about 9/11 was it was the golden age for white collar crime, like financial malfeasance and the mob, because the FBI and all of the federal and major actual like law enforcement and regulatory agencies, not that they were good before, but they took all the resources, whatever was being put into stopping, you know, high frequency trading, algorithmic fraud on Wall Street, or trying to stop the defrauding of Enron style investor plunder of just regular people, and liquidation of, you know, your 401ks and your pensions and your municipal funding for your city through Wall Street malfeasance, and all of that, whatever was being dedicated to that was all taken off of that and put onto trying to find Osama bin Laden's in the United States, and Homeland Security was set up, right? All this stuff, and it was like America is gonna get tough on its criminals, inside and outside, you know, and this is gonna be our new war. It's on all these Muslim, these Asians, these Muslim, as the Azov Battalion calls them, the Kadyrov orcs. So it's straight up like Tolkien era, you know, colonial era, you know, goblin and orc and monsterification of Asians and East, you know, West Asians, like Muslims in particular. You know, and we're gonna go get them. We're gonna get them all. We're gonna get those nasty people inside the United States. And then there was no investigation after that into, or there was not very much to begin with, but then it definitely went down. And then you had to run up to the 0809 financial crisis, which was, you know, all the actual criminals who are billionaires and millionaires, the most impactful and the most important to be actually cleaning up, you know, is other people like Batman, other billionaires. But nobody's investigating that, right? Because, you know, the United States doesn't have a justice system. It doesn't have vigilante or formal justice. It has an injustice system that is a organized crime den called all three branches of the U.S. government, legislative, judicial, and executive, that rubber stamp, allow, and perpetuate mass wealth extraction, racialized capitalism, racism, and the violence of it, and the wealth extraction, as well as the external wealth extraction and imperialism. Capitalism here at home and imperialism abroad, you know, racism at home and massacre of Muslims, and now they're trying to get Chinese abroad or whoever else they want to get abroad, you know. So and so the Dark Knight trilogy was you know, kind of embroiled in that time. Batman has this huge surveillance network. Right? There's famous scenes in the Dark Knight trilogy where he's got this wall to wall. It looks like the panoply giant like 360 IMAX screen in the Matrix, but it's like all of the cameras, everyone's cell phone, everyone's TV, everyone's every camera on the street, everyone's laptop, webcam, you know, when they're trying to do their Zoom meeting. Batman's got everyone's cameras tapped, right? He has sole control because he's Wayne Enterprises, right? He is America. He owns the tech company. He's like Google, the Coke Industries fused with Lockheed Martin. He is, you know, and he's like, but I'm a good, sad, rich white boy, and I'm gonna solve crime using my mass surveillance network, using my hypersonic Lockheed Batmobile that shoots missiles out of every orifice. He was kind of like the first Falcon, if you think about it. That kind of version of Batman. I'm gonna bring justice. Falcon and Iron Man. I'm gonna bring justice by having all the money, all the weapons, all the bombs, all the surveillance, all the tech, all the AI. I have it all. And me personally, I'm gonna bring. It's a very fascistic, ultra. It's a very ultra Western kind of sort of character, really, similar to Iron Man. But I'm a good guy, and so that's gonna make it fine. Edward Snowden famously said we should not love an Obama or fear a Trump. We should not he said we should, for those who understand what he was trying to do, we should not love an Obama, fear a Trump. We should not allow the existence of such concentrations of power to and certainly not in a completely the caveat will also be the concentration of power in the hands of a plutocratic, racist, capitalist, colonialist, bourgeois-controlled government. Government and corporate and business apparatus, because those things are not really separable, as I would argue. And so Batman's character is kind of I think Nolan is trying to make a commentary on maybe this is not so good. It's kind of cautionary in some senses. And then, but it also kind of takes the Joker, who it's it's kind of the Joker is a character that's very much chaos. It's chaotic. It's in all of these, it's a very 1980s. We have to get tough on crime sort of thing. It's like a Clockwork Orange. Why are all of these children? What are all these people with these mohawks? Just throwing bottles. They're beating up people in the streets. There's all this violence. There's all of this trash in the streets. There's all these. A lot of shows and comic books start with the trash. In the streets, you can smell the reek and the rot. The taxi driver. There's a rotten in this street. There's hookers. There's crime. There's drugs. No one's cleaning up the trash well because you didn't pay the trash workers enough to take care of their basic necessities like rent and shit. Where is the trash in the street? The rain comes down. It's cold and wet. The kind of rain that penetrates. Makes you feel grimy and sticky, and not the kind of rain that washes the grime away. Not the kind of not like the great flood that washes the crime away. It's the kind of rain that makes everything worse. It's very noir, right? Which is about broody white guys coming back from doing horrible violence in World War II, and then not going to therapy and not fixing their problems. That's what noir is. And it's so cold and wet, and I'm just a creepy, weird, introspective, rich nerd that's gonna clean this shit up. I want to do one of these days. This is kind of an off topic, but one of these days I want to do a video, probably not going to be edited because I don't have time, for this comic book called The Max. I think I brought this up. I was just watching some of this. The Max, it was on MTV, an animated series on MTV in the mid 90s. MTV's Oddities. Hey, Batman's actually in that. I didn't realize it was a crossover. But anyway, the Max is, I talked about this last time. The Max is a homeless person. He's a homeless, and he's not quite right. He's disconnected from reality. He's delusional. It's kind of clear he has some form of schizophrenia. He's disconnected. He's dissociative. He hallucinates, but it's unclear if his hallucinations are what's happening, is what's real, or if it's the or if the world is actually, if he's just in a surreal, multi-dimensional reality, and everyone else is not cluing into this, you know, and that's part of what's being played with in the Max. But the Max is a homeless person who is trying to fight crime in the grimy oil slick streets of the city, and his only friend is Julie Winters, a social worker. And I was talking about this on a previous stream, and that's a similarity with my game Neofeud as well, which is that the main characters are a social worker, like in Neofeud is Carl Carbon, cyborg social worker because of cyberpunk, and a delinquent robot child who is getting into all kind of negative behaviors. He's joining gangs. He's like not going to school. He's not taking care of himself. He's like getting people he's like getting into fights and violence. And Carl is like trying to be like a surrogate parent, which is what a social worker kind of is. Where he's trying to like help people who can't deal with their own life and themselves. And so the one reason why I like it starts with that line, like the Max lives in a cardboard box. He sleeps in the back of an alley. He getting dripped on by the rain. He constantly getting arrested because he's a homeless bum. And he like stops some crimes, but the police are like, well, you're just a weird homeless guy in a purple suit. What do you get in there, weirdo? Get behind those bars. What is wrong with you? And Julie Winters, the social worker, has to constantly bail the Max out. And so I like this show because it's almost like the Max, I almost feel like it takes place in a grimy, wet, seedy, black with this gothic architecture, trash and shit strewn, crime filled, both, you know, average people trying to survive and the rich doing ultra crime in the top of the, you know, Empire State Building. Real mask off moment when you rename that motherfucker. And so the Max is like in New York, because Gotham, you know, the Max is in a New York-esque, which is the capital of capitalism. Right? The United States is the world hegemon, defending global capitalism, imperialism, under racism, etc. And so New York is the symbol of the headquarters of the West in the United States. And so the Max is like in a Batman-like city, but instead of being the billionaire cool dude, you know, instead of being the billionaire cool dude with access to Iron Man's space satellites that can fire out drone swarms and take out anyone on the planet with a rocket launcher or a laser beam through the forehead, like in Spider-Man: Far From Home. Unlike cool dude Batman, Michael Keaton, right? Playa in the 80s, you know, hitting up John McClane's wife in the Nakatomi Plaza building and doing a lot of really expensive cocaine, having sex with beautiful escort models after doing their, you know, Lexus ads. The Max is not rich. The Max is not a playboy. The Max is not cool. The Max is kind of strange. The Max is constantly going to jail. The Max is homeless. The Max is broke. The Max is a bum. You know, it's kind of what I was when I was working full-time as a social worker and being homeless with my family. So it's even worse. In a city not unlike New York City, which is Honolulu, which is, you know, it doesn't rain in quite as sludgy and grimy a way, but the city is as sludgy and grimy despite its postcard paradise, airbrushing, and exterior. It's a fucked up, disgusting place. In its morality, in its racism, in its capitalism, it's actually more unsurvivable than New York, actually, Honolulu. If you're an average worker, you're even more screwed than the striking, waste disposable garbage men, which is why New York was full of garbage, right? But the West is only good at one thing, which is storytelling and lying to create mass violence, constructing narratives to make mass violence, like what the NYT, Reuters, BBC, all Western media and social media is doing right now, to manufacture wars. More wars, infinite war, and so anyway, so the Max is a character it's an anti-Batman, right? The Max is totally not cool, totally broke. The Max has like 2 cents to his name. I think there's a scene where the Max is like, you know, he literally has $0. That's why he has to get a social worker, like a freelance indie surrogate parent for broken people. That's what a social worker is. to come bail his ass out of prison with an envelope full of $50 of cash that Julie Winters doesn't have. You know, constantly saving his ass, which is what also like being a social worker and a parent for delinquent, you know, broken, unhealed people is constantly frustrating and annoying. But you have to keep doing it because, well, maybe because you're trying to help them. Anyways, and so Julie Winters is working in a shitty ass office. Like, actually, Neofeud's office. I brought this up on the Twitch stream last week, but I just want to bring this up real fast. Just to contrast this with what the Batman is, what Batman has represented. So in Neofeud, Neofeud has a video game has a TV tropes entry. Interesting. Anyways, so Neofeud's characters, everyone is in squalor. They're in shit. The characters are broke. You know, that's very important to me. Like, it's cyberpunk. It's cyberpunk, tongue-in-cheek cyberpunk themed. So they're more like hippie. There's hippie Terminators. There are disenfranchised, the anti-war Terminators who got their legs shot off in the second Dresden firebombing by depleted uranium rounds when they were putting down the leftist uprisings in Europe. Kind of what the United States and the West is doing right now, trying to put down, sending neo-Nazis out to go kill people. Well, they do that all over the world, right? And so the main one of the characters is a hippie Terminator. The main character is a cyborg social worker who's being paid so little that he can barely afford to get his arm fixed with his coffee on his shirt every single day. That he can't because he can't afford a new shirt because that's how much they pay you to be a social worker. That's what I was, or a STEM teacher for at-risk, underserved, you know, poor people of color in the ghettos. There's like homeless, also disconnected from reality, trench-coated Neos and JC, like, you know, cyberpunk noir protagonists, because cyberpunk is very much overlapping with noir. Cyber noir, you know, Squiddies from Matrix. You know, you've got, you know, unemployed rescue bots, discarded i7 servant i7 androids. Anyways, so the main character is a social worker for all of these broken, impoverished, failed people, right? Carl Carbon's character, in the similar way that I'm trying to find the goddamn office. I can never find it. Wait, Neofeud. See, I think it's here. Okay, let me see if I can get the video real fast. Yeah, here. So in Carl Carbon's office, right? His office was actually inspired. And this is something that people might not know, but I'm gonna just bring it up because this office that Carl works in, right? As you can see, he's surrounded by all of this paperwork. You know, he's got his mountains of paperwork. He's like falling asleep at his desk there. I don't know if you can see that. Trying to get the one where he's actually falling asleep. Can I get that one? Sorry. So, you know, he's falling asleep at his desk. Which is what I was doing, you know, depressed and bored and underpaid. Surrounded by mountains of paperwork in a Terry Gilliam-esque sort of way. Broken ass desk, like holes in the side of it. You know, and that's also this kind of dramatic. A lot of that is like borrowing from stuff from the map. The way that it's set up is from the map. The Max, who's one of the main characters, is a social worker, and also not just from the Max, but also from my life, just living and working full time, and living in a car. The Max lived in a cardboard box, but Holly and me and the children, we didn't live in a cardboard box, but we lived in like a vehicle. You know, for a period of time, and then we get in a house that's way too small, next to the meth lab above a highway, because that's how much they pay you to be, you know, teachers. That's how much they pay teachers in Honolulu, in Manhattan. You know, 50%. Like I often bring up, 50+% of college professors are food insecure in the United States, and that's a crime. You know, what billionaire, philanthropist, playboy, right? Where is Batman gonna? When is Batman gonna solve? Right? When is the billionaire vigilante justice bringer gonna solve the crime of 50% of the food, the people that teach at the highest levels of the education system starving? Where? Because he'd have to punch himself out, right? Because his billionaires like him are the reason why that kind of thing is a major reason why that's not happening, because all the wealth is taking out of what could be paying for their housing and their food and their basic needs, and it's going so that he can buy more yachts and have sex with more supermodels and make more fucking fancy toys and fund the police that he owns, because billionaires own everything, including the government, which orders the police. So to beat up strikers, working class people, black people, people of color, lock them up. So you know, and so that's kind of like, so that's why, like, I appreciate, you know, the Max is it is a noir, but it's a very how should we say this? The Max is if Batman is billionaire, philanthropist, arms dealer, playboy, but more black than Iron Man, more goth Iron Man. If the Batman is billionaire, philanthropist, arms dealer, playboy, noir, the Max is homeless, destitute, centered, social worker noir, of people actually trying to actually solve crimes. You know, because the crime is homelessness, right? The crime is people that don't have the resources that they need, and then you happen to, you know, the crime is, why are there so many people out in the street with their legs falling off, right? And then they can't get healthcare. Why are there so many people like dying from COVID-19? Why are there so many people like suffering these basic lack of their basic needs that causes them to resort to the violence of drugs, and then the gun violence that comes with that, and the other, just direct physical violence that comes. And that's not only that, there's also the violence to the community. I have to deal with lots of people who are selling and consuming meth, you know, in the ghetto of Kalipalama, when other people were living in fancy little suburbs, right, being white, being upper class, being the trigger pullers for the police and the military, and the accountant, you know, money counters, and the Wall Street traders and the real estate speculators. I was down there trying to clean up their mess, you know. Not Batman. I didn't see a lot of billionaires in my neighborhood. I didn't see a lot of billionaires in Kalipalama, next to where the U.S. military is spilling fossil fuel, right where the U.S. military is dumping. Still, to be clear, they're still doing that. They're not. The U.S. military is suing the government of Hawaii. They're absolutely doing zero. Dumping toxic jet fuel into the water, right, that I'm bathing my children in 10 years ago. Because they were already doing it 10 years ago, and more longer than that. So there's no Batman to clean up that toxic gas. I can't clean that toxic gas out of our pipes. All I can do is try to stop children from going to prison for the rest of their life. You know, stop some Filipino kid from picking up some guns and blowing their neighbors away, blowing their fellow members of their community away. Which I had kids that killed, they died while they were coming to my STEM classes. Not while in the STEM class, but like they didn't come back because they got killed in gang violence and drug and other related violence at the age of 13 in the neighborhood. The Honolulu and the Travelog and the Hawaii magazines, like when you're looking at, you know, vacations.com or Expedia, where am I going to go for my Hawaiian vacation? You know, when you're watching 50 First Dates, they don't film that. They don't talk about that. But Hawaii is as Gotham as New York City. But New York is just, you know, but the West is just a bunch of storytelling liars. They don't want to talk about that. Hawaii is the highest rate of children being mass arrested in schools. Higher than New York, higher than California, higher than anywhere in the United States. Hawaii, number one. Most children arrested by the principals calling up the police and ripping them out of the school and putting them in prison. Hawaii is the highest rate of police mass killing of non-white people. Higher than Chicago, higher than Derek Chauvin's district, higher than anywhere in the United States. Hawaii, highest rate of per capita non-white people being killed by police. Is not paradise. It's ultra Gotham. I know it's incredibly hard to make that point. That's why I made the game called Neofeud and I didn't call it Hawaii Feud. It's incredibly hard to make that point because of the only thing that the West has ever excelled at, which is professionally lying, making up stories and propaganda to sell violence, war, and oppression. That's the only thing they're good at. They're not really good at anything else. They're terrible at dealing with COVID-19, providing basic needs. They're, like I said, an octillion times slower super quantum computers that the Chinese are beating them at. They're not better at anything. Hawaii had the world's first universal healthcare system. We had invented submarines before they even dreamt up. Their science fiction Their storytelling. That's what Jules Verne did. He did storytelling. Hawaiians invented submarines. Americans and Westerners and Europeans told stories about submarines and science fiction. But the non-white people actually do the thing, do the stuff, just like the Hidden Figures actually did the hardest math and the post-Newtonian calculus and the rocket science that put a white man on the moon. But the West is very good about, they're very good at opening and closing their mouth and telling big stories about who they are. And that's why it's so hard to break through this. So that's, so the stormtrooper part of me is the storyteller part that has to, is telling very emotionally well-crafted stories that are fictional, that give that resonate in people's psyches and emotions. But I'm trying to use the storytelling that the West has taught me for good, not to manufacture consent for wars and capitalism and racism, which is that's the only thing. You look at what New York Times, the BBC, your history books, your fiction, which is about billionaire philanthropist arms. The greatest storytelling, the most celebrated story is that of Iron Man, and by the total ticket sales. Which is about manufacturing consent for infinite war, suffering, death, destruction, the military-industrial complex. And that's a major point that I'm making in all these streams. Storytelling is professional lying. And it sucks to say that because, it can be used that way, and that's the way it's used in mass disinformation and mass violence-based societies like all of the West, all the capitalist world, all the NATO countries. And I'm way off the topic. That was off topic. But Neofeud that's what Neofeud is ultimately, a lot of it is about. But importantly, the main character is very much a big, to kind of to pivot away from that diatribe, the suffering, the storytelling is often used, and it is repeatedly used and constantly used, right? That's the constructing this narrative that the West is defending freedom, right? And I don't want to be like this awesome, that it's so great that Russia invaded. That's not good. All wars, we should be stand against all wars. But this narrative that like the West is just here for peace and has never invaded anywhere. The United States has never wrongfully invaded anyone ever. It's just, it flies in the complete face of history. And in the 4 wars in which people were bombed the same day as the first days of the invasion, not to say that invasion is good, but Yemen was bombed. More people were killed in U.S. continued infinite wars, infinite invasionary and U.S. supported genocidal wars on the same day of the first day of the Russian invasion. More people were killed by the United States and its NATO friends than Russia, and still what is even happening at least at this point is not even close to what's happened in Libya, Iraq, Syria, backed by, funded by, armed by billionaires, billionaires like Mr. Omidyar, who is currently funding more of this. Billionaires like the Kochs, right? Arms dealers like Lockheed Martin, and playboys like Elon, who says we will coup whoever we want and supports the U.S. and its military and its intelligence apparatus, backing fascists in Bolivia, like I often bring up. And so this idea that the U.S. is here with its friends, right, with its Avenger friends, to defend freedom and democracy and human rights, right? That's the point of decolonators, also, right? Decolonate again. My point is that like the storytelling in the social media, right? The storytelling, this narrative, right? The media narrative of the Western media, right? It's always about constructing and maintaining. It's about telling stories of this one grandma who picked up a AK-40, picked up an M4A1, and dramatically threatened a horde, 25 Russian tanks and the whole Russian military, and she just gave him a stern talking to, and this valiant child who's screaming at the soldier, and while like crying and holding her flag in her hand. And these like valiant, they're very powerful story. But this is storytelling, and I'm not to say that those things didn't happen, but the Nayera testimony, a teenage girl coming into Congress, right, with cameras, and she's tears streaming down her face, right, and she's like, and then the babies came, then the soldiers came, these horrible soldiers came, and they took the babies from the incubators, they threw them out of the incubators, they were stabbing pregnant women in the stomach, they were killing people, oh please, someone must help, that's storytelling. When you work in film, you know this, it's storytelling, and all that was a made up story. She was a coach trained actor. This is why they always accuse actual victims, like black people, of all being, you're just a trained actor, you're a paid actor, you're a plant, you're a Soros funded this, because the entire West is paid actors. Every journalist, New York Times author, the anchors, obviously the Hollywood is all paid actors, but it's not just paid actors in the sense that they're making movies that are fictional, but it's also the stories that they're telling about the world are lies. Again, that's the point of a lot of these YouTube videos that I make, is that's the deep lie is not, Batman is not a real person, it's a made up story in a comic book, but the narrative, the meta narrative, right, what is normalized in the world when you have billionaires saving the world, whether that's Batman or Iron Man, that is the deep, that is the acting, that is the paid storytelling, that is the storytelling drama, right? The Iron Man being a hero, right? That is the acting. That's the US, that's billionaires, that's Elon Musk literally acting as if he's saving the world, being portrayed by a suave, again, very, as I always say, they're very skilled storytellers. These Hollywood directors, these script writers, and these actors and actresses, and the screen, the effects people, and the lighting and the costume. These are very, very skilled storytellers. This is not really a criticism of, these actors are bad and this movie is bad and that script is bad. No, if the script is really good, that's why I say, the more entertaining and the higher quality an American Western movie is, the more potentially damaging it can be, because people love it and they eat it up. If in the Nayera testimony, right, if Nayera, right, this paid actress that manufactured the deaths of thousands and thousands of people in this horrific war, an invasion of the Middle East, we go, everybody's up in arms about invasions. Where was everybody for the year? If her acting, right, if Nayera's acting was quote unquote bad, and she didn't cry hard enough, and if she didn't cry at all, and she just was like, babies are being thrown out of incubators in a very flat, neutral tone, babies are being thrown out of incubators, people are suffering in my home country, America, please save us. If she just said that, if her acting was bad, it would have been good, because America might not have gone into war. Not she alone was not enough, but that was important, because America wants to be the superhero, right? America wants to be Batman. It wants to be Christian Bale, right? Americans are signing up. There are a lot of Nazis in America. Americans are signing up to join the Azov Battalion right now. There was just a report that the Azov Battalion specifically in Ukraine is a neo-Nazi. They have SS insignias on them, and they're very clear. Like, there's interviews where they're being interviewed, and then the Western media interviewer is saying, "Oh, so what's your ideology at the Azov Battalion?" And then they say, "Can you turn the camera off now?" Because they can't. If the Azov Battalion says we're here for liberal equality and we're fighting against injustice, that would actually harm. They would actually might lose ranks, because the neo-Nazis, they're not even, somebody said they're not neo-Nazis, they're just Nazis. They're just old school Nazis with old school insignias. If the Azov Battalion leaders were to say, in Mariupol, the city is a major bastion for them, and that's why they think it's going to be very bloody, because those people are hardcore. They really, really, really want to kill them some Muslims. They grease their bullets in pig fat so they can kill them some Muslims, Chechens in specific, and they're Nazis. They're racist, fascist, white supremacist people. that are fighting, you know, and what, you know, whatever, you know, that's who it is, you know, in that battalion. And they can't say things like you know, the Western media, again, the storytelling is the Western media trying to bury this fact, you know. I've gone over this in so many streams. It's really clear, you know. They're not even, you know, Azov Battalion. Look, they have an SS symbol. You know, this is their symbol. The Azov Battalion. These are the people who Justin Trudeau and Canadian and American politicians were scared of being photographed next to them because it might look bad. It's not just gonna look bad. This is the Azov Battalion. It is bad, you know. What do you mean it's gonna look bad? These people have swastikas. They're Sig Heiling. Because they're not really neo-Nazis. They're just Nazis. And like that's who's fighting, you know. And the people, of course, like not everybody is these people in the country of Ukraine, but I mean that's, you know, there's a lot of people who are like against fascism. They're like, you know, if there's a table with one Nazi and 9 other people, it's 10 Nazis at the table. And it's like if you have a country that is officially has government support for an entire regiment of hundreds and not thousands of Nazis, what is that, you know? Why didn't you clean that up? But they can't clean that up. Why? Because the United States in the 2014 coup specifically put those people in power. Because it knows that they're going to fight hard because like in World War II, the fascists fight. Anyway, fascists were the people that fought against communists and against the Russians. That's, you know, and that they harkened back to the World War II era where they relish in the idea of slaughtering some ethnic minorities. The SS that they support participated in exterminations, you know, of minorities like Jewish people. They exterminated ethnic minorities for white supremacy. And that's who Henry Ford supported. That's who the United States supported in 2014. That's who they still support. And so, but the narrative, right? Like the Naira crying is, oh well, that they just, you know, an important thing about cinema, right, and about telling stories, right, is about where you put the camera. Do you put the camera? If you put the camera on where you know, just as an example of how you can tell stories in cinema, and I do this all the time, making video games or making trailers and making cutscenes, you know. If you put the camera, if you just cut that swastika out and you see that guy's hand, if you cut this screen in half, and you only show the dude with the gun, you leave the swastika out, you leave the Hitler salute out, then maybe it just looks like valiant fighters, right? Just have a little blue and yellow flag, leave that outside. Where you frame your scene, right? The way and where you place the camera, right, is what tells the story. Hitchcock studied this, and Hitchcock was working on more advanced forms of Western lying for mass violence, disinformation, capitalism, and global barbarism, right? Hitchcock was about if you recut the same scene, right, with a smile. If you have a man smile and then a woman smile, it looks like it's a romantic date. If you re-edit it so a man smiles, and then there's a brief clip of a knife with blood on it, you know, and then you show the woman's face. Oh, suddenly it's, why is he smiling? Because, you know, suddenly he's, you know, it can make the first person, the second person, what's happening can go from, with just editing a little clip in between, it goes from being, you know, happy, romantic, something, to it recontextualizes the first image, and it recontextualizes the narrative into something horrible. And so that's something that filmmakers and that journalists and political scientists in the West study, is how to craft the storytelling to manufacture the narrative, to manufacture the consent for whatever they want. War, death, capitalism, racism, you know, prison industrial complex, people signing up to join the U.S. Navy, Army, Marines, Air Force, worshiping Elon Musk, you know, working their butt off 60 hours a week for less than what they're worth, you know. That's where you know, and cinema is even more powerful. Film and visual, moving image, still image is powerful. Comics, they manufactured consent for the coup in Hawaii with telling the story how Hawaiians hate their disgusting, horrible leaders. I want to overthrow them, and then the U.S. went in and, you know, couped our country, and expand our healthcare and housing and disenfranchise us all, right? But you see, history is not, that's the thing that the left has to kind of grapple with. Boring history books are not always as, while they are true and important to study, they're not as powerful and moving as drama, you know, as storytelling, you know. That's part of what Decolonators, I'm trying to dramatize what 200 pages of true, absolutely vital history of Vietnam doesn't tell, because nobody, you know, the lay person or the average person don't have time or the energy, and they don't want to sit there, and they can't eat popcorn to 700 pages wall of text about what happened, you know. And like, while that's ideally you have a society full of people who aren't a bunch of spoiled children who will only consume information if it's tasty, full of crying and laughing and explosions. It would be awesome if that was a society that was in the West. That's not what it is. It's full of people whose biggest problem is they're bored and they want to be entertained all night and all day, you know. And so the storytelling really is important, you know. And so anyways, so that's where like that's what you're paid the big bucks to do in the West, is to just professionally lie in history books, you know, and just cut out, you know, again, place the camera like, okay, well, revolution happened and Americans fought for freedom and justice. Leave out, you know, in the virtual camera of the history book, you leave out all the slaves. You leave out that Thomas Jefferson had 260. Leave out of that camera the rape and the horrible things that he did to 14-year-old black girls while calling them animals. Right? You just leave that out of frame. Leave out George Washington's teeth that he ripped out of his slaves' mouths and stuck in his own face. Right? Leave out the genocide. Right? Just talk about, you know, how do we frame this how do we frame this genocide, stolen indigenous people's land and their massacre and stolen black slaves? Well, let's make a little scene called Thanksgiving. Let's have happy little Indians who are only Plains Indian type, you know, and caricatured. And but white people don't care. Let's have happy little Indians breaking bread and pumpkin pie and squash and turkey with these white settlers, you know. And let's, you know, that's all storytelling. That's storytelling, right? The script writing, and that's framing, right? And then telling the story that you need to tell, which is that America is the best thing. And that's why America has some of the best storytellers in the world, because you have to cover up some of the worst crimes in the world, right? Which is the genocide of tens of millions of people, stolen people on stolen land, and infinite. The storytelling in America has to be the best, you know, in a certain sense, because for America to survive, the worst crimes in the history of the human species have to be buried by incredible levels of lying. That's why America, Hollywood, is so good, I would argue. That's one major reason, because of the levels of genocide, death, and infinite war, and being the global hegemon of the worst systems ever known. You know, racialized capitalism under imperialists with nuclear weapons and infinite war. And so you have to really have really good filmmakers. You got to have really good filmmakers to bury all of that. And so, anyways, so you know, so the near testimony though, it was an actress that helped manufacture consent for the war. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. So back to Batman. So, you know, and so that's one thing I like about the Max, is that it's a homeless, destitute person, and that's what's more honest about the Max, is that it's like, you know, dark, broody peoples who have serious internal trauma that they haven't dealt with, right? Most of them are just homeless on the street or having real serious difficulty dealing with their life. Like, you know, Joker is also a broody white guy. I mean, the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, broody, sad white guy movie also. But I mean, at least it's not a billionaire. At least it's not a billionaire playboy. It's kind of a weird, sad dude who does really bad things and also has been mistreated in his life, and then like it manifests in him continuing to harm, right? You know Joaquin Phoenix the Joker, right? But Joker, you know, is somebody who is suffers all kind of terrible traumas in his life, and then he goes out to re-traumatize everyone around him, and then spreads the chaos and spreads the violence, right? But at least, he's not a fucking billionaire. Put on your happy face, and the Joker also has a social worker, right? The scene where Joker, he has a social worker too, right? This lady who's trying to help him, but she is also, this is also like Neofeud, which is my life, right? Hey man, hey Joker, in this crap ass New York City that we all live in, I'm trying to help you get better. You're making it hard, because that's what happens when broken people, they're hard. They're just hard people to deal with. That's why they give it to disproportionately women who are social workers. That's why, and just social, or people, not just social work is also used in a very terrible way in the United States to do genocide and steal black children from black parents and brown indigenous children from indigenous parents to kill the Indian, save the man by ripping them from their language and culture. That's also true. But there are people who are trying to help in social services, like just working in the troubled boys, trying to play basketball with kids and get them out of these activities. Just trying to help. There are people that are trying to do charitable work, or it should just be social poverty alleviation. Really, it should be more normalized. But it's given to people who are very under themselves, very poor, but just want to do good, and they call them do-gooders. It's interesting how people know teachers, nurses, people that are working on the front lines to work with mental health and poverty problems. The United States and the West understands that those people are, because they call them do-gooders. They call them bleeding heart. They call them you're just a little bleeding heart liberal something, right? But it's like, so those people are doing good. Why do you choose to pay them the worst salaries, right? Like that's why I said when I was making Neofeud, when Holly and I and the kids were homeless for periods of time, we never had anything close to good. The only people who had any homes to live in were police beating up on poor people and workers, arresting children and throwing them in prison, school to prison pipeline, police, military, and big time lawyers and capitalists for rich corporations. That's the only people who had only people that I knew, and the only people that I still know in Hawaii and in New York who have any kind of decent, dignified living are horrible people, right? It doesn't have to be that way. You could choose to pay. Places like Cuba and Vietnam and China and other places. The teachers and social workers, poverty alleviators are it's hard work, but they're hugely celebrated. They're like, wow, you alleviated poverty in that village that was really having hunger and homelessness problems. Wow, that's amazing. We're gonna put you in the highest ranks. Like the people who are the best social workers in China, that's how you ascend to the top. In America, you can go die in a hole. You can go live in a cardboard box with the max. You can go live with Julie Winters, in the max. You can just go work in some shitty ass office. Julie has a getup that's it's commented on like that. Holly was like that. I don't know if that would exactly work. It's very attractive, but I don't know if that would work. But that's part of Julie Winters' character though, who has her own problems. But if you want to be a social worker, you can go live in a shitty ass office. You can go be with Carl Carbon. You can go work in the broken office with the horrible desk covered in grime and 50 years old. You can have mountains of paperwork that you don't get paid enough to do. You can go sit there and eat the world's shit and deal with people who have extreme mental problems. Deal with kids who come to class with guns and people that are on meth all day. You have to go deal with meth heads all day and people sending you all kind of horrible, hateful messages and vomiting in your face. Because when you're a social worker, you're dealing with people with real serious problems. It's massive. It's a lot of care work, and this is something that people don't want. They talk about care workers work, but care work with people who have is not easy. Whether those are little children, and if you know this, if you've ever been a parent, you're not going to get a lot of sleep the first year. That's part of the care work is your quality of life goes down. If you're dealing with old disabled people with extreme mental health disorders, and people with elderly people who are they're not fully there, they're gonna be abusive towards you. They're gonna be abusive. They're gonna be mean. They're gonna be nasty. At times because their mind is going. They're having dementia. They don't know who they are. They don't know who you are. You know, they might scream at you. They're gonna say all kind of horrible things at you. I've had this situation before of people that I've been around people that have been dying, and been in these situations, and I've worked with people who have had these serious disorders, and that's gonna really suck in to be around. It's not fun. You know, it's not fun. It's like it's gonna be like traumatizing to you, but you know, and it's not fair to you, but also, well, I mean, what are you gonna do with those people who have these serious problems that haven't been dealt with because the society has fucked everybody up, and also, you know, they fucked themselves up because they did too many drugs, they didn't deal with their own problems. But you know, at the end of life, everyone will be temporarily abled, and people's minds don't last forever. You know, my dad is dealing with that right now with some of his elderly brother, you know, and he's like, oh my god, this guy's so belligerent, and he's really kind of being really abusive. And yeah, you know, but that's why Americans and the West has care homes, to put its elderly and infirm and disabled and people who need that extra help far away from them, because it isn't fun, and they don't care enough to do that work, and they don't want to do it. They want some poor brown, ideally Filipino woman, usually that's who's doing a lot of that in places like Hawaii and New York, or some brown or black or some poor person, some help to clean the shit. Cleaning shit is not fun. They don't want to do any of that, you know? Like, just taking out the garbage smells like shit, and it's not fun, right? That's why the garbage workers went on strike in New York, and that's why there was garbage on the streets in all the 80s movies, like Terminator. And They Live, you know, and all the Batman movies, because cleaning the shit sucks, man. And like, you should, I mean, so, and like, somebody got to do it, and like, maybe like you should like pay the people that actually do the important work that actually helps people live and helps people get their lives back on track, you know, and helps the world not smell like shit. Maybe it should be paid enough like to exist in a dignified way, you know. And there's places that do that, like Cuba and Vietnam. They make sure, number one, they make sure that people have communities that don't allow people to fall so far through the crack that they become so self-harming and then harming of their communities, right? They don't have like meth profligating through every major city in Vietnam, as far as I understand it. They're very strict on that for good reason, because it causes knock-on impacts to the social workers, to the care workers who have to deal with broken minds and the strains on the healthcare systems that they don't need, because they're already poor, because they're trying to do socialism after they beat up actual bad guys like the United States in the Vietnam fucking war to stop the spread of communism, and which was genocide. So the Vietnamese people, they're like, that's why we don't have these drugs in there, because we don't want to have to add increased burden to the poverty alleviators, you know. But the West don't give a shit about that. They're like, well, let's give Batman and Iron Man another $50 billion and see if they can punch out all the lights of all the disabled people and all the mentally ill people and all of the elderly people, you know, because maybe that'll help. If he gets another rocket launcher, maybe we'll just take them all and blow them up in a war, you know. But we're definitely not gonna like pay the disproportionately brown, disproportionately non-men, disproportionately immigrant care workers that deal with that shit. We're definitely not gonna pay them a dignified wage, because then that would make Elon Musk look like he's not as competent and not as awesome and not as self-sacrificing as he wants to appear to be, you know. Social work is like, you know, it's a major form of care work, and that's like a lot of it is just like teaching me like how to put up with children. A main part of Neofeud is this character Neofeud and Protege. I mean, I know this is not a Batman, but I mean this is Batman. You know, this is what actual Gotham is. You know, to my mind. The part of the point of Protege, this Protege is a delinquent kid who is living in this squalor ass ghetto, right? Who is running around, getting into, you know, he's dealing drugs, he's like getting into gang violence. He's and Carl, his job is supposed to get him on the right track, get the kid to show up to his night classes, get him to show up to his remedial classes, get him to show up to his community service, right? Get the kid to like show up to his STEM class, come on kid, you gotta get your diploma, you know. The robot kid, you know, Protege, I can't see there, but the Protege character, you know, and you know, he's a delinquent robot, he's he's really kind of like a dick to Carl Carbon. Carl Carbon kind of beats a dick back sometimes, but he's not like Protégé's character. He's not like nice and fun to be around. You know, he's flipping the bird. He's over there like, you know, screw you, man. You know, Protégé is like, screw you, Carl. You know, you freaking Bruce Willis. You're like a bedraggled alcoholic Bruce Willis. You know, motherfucker. You know, he talks in the way like they talk in the ghetto that I'm from, which is like, you freaking bedraggled Bruce Willis. You brooding like hell no, I ain't giving you no cigarette. I straight up got I had to get my medical regulator hack. I blew my top paycheck to get my medical regulator hack at the arcade. I voice act Protégé and Carl Carbon, so it's me talking to myself. But you know, but this character, you know, he is being super belligerent. He is being a total dickhead to Carl, this one on the right? And Carl's job is supposed to help him, right? He's like, help me help you. Help me, like Jerry Springer, right? Jerry, Tom Cruise, fucking character. Anyway, you know, he's like, help me help you, right? Help me to help you out of your terrible situation, right? And Proto is like, no, like, fuck you, man. Screw you. I don't need your help. I'm a baller, you know? I've got the bling. I've got my freaking Optimus Prime mode ICs on my. I got my Mega Buster arm. You know, I got my Reebok feature. He's a robot kid, you know, but it's cyberpunk, right? So he's like, I got this badass freaking cyborg. I'm like Cyborg from the DC universe, man. I got this freaking blingy ass golden eye, I can like see through walls and shit, man. I'm like blowing shit away. I'm like slanging them guns, man. I'm like doing a heists. I'm doing a crimes, you know, like kind of like Chappie, you know. Like, and I don't need your help. Well, son, you're gonna go to prison any day now. No, I don't need your help. I'm never going to prison. I'm gonna make it to be an RNBA baller. I'm gonna have billions of dollars, one shot, one deal at a time. I'm gonna blow all the competition away. I'm gonna wipe all the Bloods out and the Crips. I'm gonna be the, you know. But that's the kind of attitude. Hey, you ever been around 12 to 20-year-old boys or anyone? They think that they are everything, you know. You ever had to try having to deal with 30 teenagers, all from broken homes, some of them on meth at the same time. That's what I had to deal with. Some of them selling meth or on meth. Hey, Mr. Chris, can you help me with? I just got my car stolen. You know, hey, I just punched my stepmom out because my dad beat the shit out of me, and then you know, and she backed him up, and then she said, you're not even my child. You're like a sad waste, and I beat my mom up, and now police are coming for me. You know, that was like a daily, you know, and I was like, oh my god, this is like too much fucking. At a certain point, it was like way too. It was like too much. It was too much. You know, it's like, you know, oh, I don't have any spoons for that. You know, it's like negative 2 million spoons every day, you know. But then that's my job because I gotta like pay rent and stuff. When rent costs $2,500 next to the meth lab above the highway, because they're paying market rent. Because I have 2 children and a wife, and that's what you do is you like do whatever you gotta do to provide for their family when you're, I don't know, an actual adult. Anyways, so social workers have to deal with so much stuff. I mean. And with people who are actually I'm not gonna say social workers, but just people who are trying to do in social services and care for people who are not capable or not getting what they need from their parents, from their society. The thing is, in a capitalist, racist, fucked up world, there will always be millions of people who can never fully really be ever completely helped because they're gonna just keep getting failed in a lot of ways. And so there's like infinite messes to clean up, you know, and there isn't a solution, you know, and that's part of that Joker scene. The social worker is like, hey, I'm sorry, Joker, like, I know that this is not really gonna help you with the problems that you have, which is that, you know, this whole society is broken. Your parents have harmed you, and you're self-harming. And there's a lot of there's poverty. There's people that are like abusing you in your own workplace. I can't stop your abusive workplace. I can't stop your abusive boss. I can't stop this abusive Bruce Wayne, who has all the money that is not. I don't have as the social worker ostensibly to help you, I don't have the money to help myself. I'm gonna lose my job actually, because people like Mr. Musk and Mr. Wayne are gonna take all of my salary as tax cuts, or take my salary, put it in his pocket so he can have more billions. And so I'm screwed, you're screwed, we're all screwed in this shitty capitalist Gotham, you know? And like, you know, and that's one thing that I liked in that in Joker, you know, as part of the Batman universe. You know, but it's kind of like, and that's also another reason why, like the Carl Carbon character, not just because I was a social worker, but another reason why the main character of Neofeud is Carl and not a cop. Actually, Carl is technically an ex-cop, and he has done that he's not a police officer, he's not in the military. The main character is not a billionaire, he's not a superhero, he's not some fancy caped super powered mutant. Carl Carbon's character in Neofeud literally has a cyber arm, but it's the opposite of what is good, you know? It's the anti-cool, you know? It is like actively trying to kill him, his cyber arm, you know? It is like, he doesn't have a retractable Wolverine like blade, which was really hot in the 80s, made out of indestructible metal, you know, forged from adamantium or vibranium or some other sci-fi nerd bullshit superpower enabling substance. Radioactive spiders. Carl Carbon's arm shoots out a letter opener that doesn't even work properly and isn't really good for even stabbing people, you know? It's just like a crappy letter opener for opening TPS reports that he can complete by the 1,000 while being underpaid. That's what Carl has. Carl has a taser that holds charge for about 15 seconds, so it's basically useless most of the time. And his arm is malfunctioning and broken, and his boss doesn't want to give him. He's already being paid enough to live in a cardboard box with a corrugated polycarbon roof that leaks, and that's all he can afford. Is basically a step above what the Max lives in, right? In a cardboard fucking box, right? Carl lives in a cardboard box that's slightly bigger. And his arm almost got him killed driving to work, but he has to drive to work because that's the only way he can get to work. And he's like, this arm malfunctioned and I can't drive properly to my job. Can I get a raise to get an upgrade? Can I get an upgrade? Can I get something, right? And the boss is like, no, you absolutely cannot. Deal with your own economic problems yourself. There's a $15 billion tax cut to build more Disneyland-like resort colonies and give another raise to the pharmaceutical company CEO and pay for another 25 battleships in Pearl Harbor, you know, or in, you know, because, you know, it's kind of like, you know, that's where I'm from, is from a military industrial complex headquarters called Hawaii. And Carl is like, oh, well, and he's like, just deal with your own, and the boss is just like, just deal with it. Just deal with it, Tin Man. I don't care. I don't care if you crash and die. We'll get another one of you. What? You know, I don't care. Carl is disabled. You know, his body is broken. You know, and he, you know, it's you know, like, my car never worked. I walked to work a lot. I walked to work in shoes that I walked so much that the shoes had holes in them, and then I got made fun of in the office for having holes in my shoes. Because the bosses and the executives at the office, you know, when I was doing social work, they had very nice brand new $10,000 shoes and $10,000 Brooks Brothers, personally tailored by the most, you know, exclusive, you know, Londonite firms, you know, beautiful suits, beautiful cufflinks, and I had holes in my shoes because I'm doing the actual work. And it also like, why are you doing this work? That's like women's work. You know, everyone else in the office was all women. You know, and it's like, oh, that's like women's work. You should be like you should be a cop and go beat up working class people and kill brown people and black people. That's what you should do for money. For like, you can make more money. Why are you doing this women's work caring for people? That was like the vibe that I got often, because everyone else in the department I worked in was women, doing all this like very hard work. Which again, that's why Karaka is definitely working. People don't give nowhere near. Elon Musk couldn't survive fucking 2 hours as a social worker. You know, he'd be in a little fetal ball of crying into fat wads of dead white war criminal covered paper called $100 bills. Elon would be crying into his $100 bills in like fucking 2 hours. You know, in that kind of job, or in the elderly care home sort of job, or in a lot of these situations, he couldn't deal with this shit. You can't deal with one person telling him a true thing on Twitter, or an employee trying to correct him on why 1024 nanometer wires inside of the brain is not actually ideal right now, and you should do. He just shouts them down and fires them. I've seen like video of him doing this because he's a whiny little infantile baby. That's what billionaire philanthropist arms to the playboys actually are. And so and just like Bruce Wayne and just like Iron Man. So, but that's why Carl is a social worker. That's another reason why. And also it's because you got to write what you know, and that's what I know. But also, I remember I was like, the main character is not gonna have a trench coat, not in this game anyway, because I was like, there's too many trench coats, too many trench coat detectives, too many police main character detectives, especially if they're American police. We don't need any more American police, and their detectives don't solve shit. What they do is they beat up on poor people and use robot dogs to kill like homeless people. That's what they do. They don't solve any. They beat up on unions. They beat up on workers. They beat up on black people, and then they throw them in prison. They're slave catchers. So I don't want to make a cop. I don't want the main character to be a cop. I remember I explicitly was like, the main character is not going to be a cop. He's not going to be FBI. He's not going to be Mulder and Scully. He's not going to be he's not going to be any NYPD Blue. He's not going to be there's a lot of detectives in point and click adventure games too, because I mean it's investigatory, right? But he's not going to be a cop, because under a broken racialized capitalist Gotham-y sort of system, there's no way to tell that story unless the cop unless that detective is an enemy. And in Neofeud, every single police officer basically that shows up is doing terrible things like committing genocide. That's what the cops do. They commit genocide. They kill innocent people. They rip children from parents. That's part of the genocide. They like slaughter innocent people needlessly, and then they laugh about how the tech companies and mainstream and social media is going to cover it up for them, and they're all horrible fucking people. And that was important because that's what I see, and that's what I saw, and that's what Black Lives Matter was dealing with. And I mean, it's like and it's like the police are the enforcers of the racialized capitalism that makes the Batmans their billions. And so it's important to, I want to point that out because that's why that is, and that's why there was zero police murders of innocent people in Vietnam, because their system is not set up, from its totality to enforce the needs of racist capitalist murderers. Now there are rich people, but the whole entire government and their structure of their country isn't set up to benefit them. They're actually they are the people that are fighting. That's what it's that's the only, and that's where it's like you have to have like an actual existing socialist, like the Cuban police. Maybe you could do one about them. But American police, when you are professionally storytelling and burying the crimes of murderers when you tell those kind of stories. And I know it's like it sucks and it's hard because it does make police is really. Investigation and police investigation makes for like really strong storytelling, because you can just have you have a new criminal every week, right? You have a new investigation, right? Who is Dano gonna book this week for Magnum, right? Who is Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Who are we getting now, right? We're chasing after the state criminal. It's comedy, it's that's why more than 50% of all shows are cop shows or something kind of cop FBI investigatory shows, because it does make for really easy storytelling. But it also supports and it backs. It's part of the malicious storytelling that covers up the crimes, and is why you have support for this horrible broken system. And like if you had decolonization and at least from the overarching heights of if the overall reality of the place, because no place is perfect, but if the country was set up to actually be by the people, for the people, of the people, in actual mutual respect, and having come clean on all of its traumas, right? Having made what we call Pono, but if it was actually just, if the justice system was actually just, then that wouldn't be a problem. But it is a problem because there isn't a justice system in the United States. There's an injustice system, right? Anyways, I feel like I've made that point. So let me go back to Batman. But so that's Batman. So Batman's character is, that's not Batman. That's Stryker. That's the other Batman. Where's the original Batman that we're talking about? Okay, so so Batman is a show, and this is not to say, this, you can go see this Batman or you can not see this Batman. I don't particularly care. I'm not trying to sell tickets to Batman. Robert Pattinson didn't, Venmo me $2 million to give him a good rap. So this is not, that's not what this is really about. But one thing I appreciate about the Batman is, at least, it's the main character, and I think Robert Pattinson said, I intentionally wanted to play Bruce Wayne, the Batman, as a kind of creepy, weirdo dweeb, And Elon Musk said something like, why is Hollywood always making movies where the bad guy is where the CEO is an evil dweeb? And it's like, because you're an evil dweeb, because that's reality, But the truth is, reality. The reality is that Hollywood makes lots of cool, awesome, CEOs like Iron Man. And historically, Batman is still the protagonist. Batman is the protagonist. Obviously, it's Bane that's the bad guy, killing innocent people, trying to undo the system. Joker, just this horrific force of evil that just laughs while killing an entire bus full of people and blowing up ships in the Hudson Bay, and Batman is not like Batman is not like impeccably Superman, like a Jesus like Messiah, sort of total white and shining armor, like white knight in shining armor, yeah. He's not like a paladin, perfect, pristine character. But those characters are boring anyway. That's the other thing that people forget, is that I would argue that actually a lot of people don't really like Cyclops, because he's kind of a goody two shoes. He's kind of a flat varsity jacket, rich white daddy's son, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, right? Being chauffeured around by limo drivers. That's the kind of vibe that the varsity jacket kind of guy kind of gives off. And it's not really that cool. It's actually not that good storytelling, because it's kind of boring, So actually, having the character have flaws, having the billionaire philanthropist playboy kind of be kind of sad and broody and broken inside, and kind of he's not really broken, but he's dealing with he's dealing with his dead parents, right? And it gives it another layer to make the character more believable, right? And not so perfect, because American dudes, and they don't really want to see themselves as just like Mr. Goody Two Shoes. That's actually not cool, The storytelling that Americans want to tell themselves is they are bad boys, They're like good bad boys, They're like, when the going gets tough, who do you call on? You call on the guys who get the work done, and I didn't show up to every class, I was cool. That's why Elon is upset. Elon is upset that he's not looking cool in some, I don't know, they're not cool enough for him or whatever, right? Elon's like, yeah, I skipped class too. Because that's Iron Man gives off that vibe. Iron Man is all kind of all over the place, Iron Man is super smart, Iron Man is super smart, but he's also kind of not studying for the exam, but he's so smart he doesn't have to study, he's skipping class, You know, he rides his motorbikes. You know, he fucking says whatever he feels like. He doesn't do things all by the book. He does it however the fuck he feels like. And then he also makes billions of dollars. And then he also like, gets the girl, whatever girl he wants. And then he also works with the military industrial complex. So, it's actually, that's actually very important. The character not being so perfect, shiny good is actually part of what manufactures the best consent for America's exceptionalism, which is like, yes, we have some flaws. There was some racism in America, but it's gone now. That's actually very important because it makes it's more believable than just America has absolutely zero racism. There's no racism. I mean, that's hard to believe. You know, you can't look out the window and see black people getting beat up. That's why the liberal storytelling of like, yes, the Falcon and Winter Soldier, right? It's like, yes, there were some bad people, but America, if Anthony Mackie's Falcon, which at the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier, right, new Captain America, if a black man gives a passionate speech to the United States Senate, Wall Street executives, and the president, America will change its heart because it will see the errors of. Look at George Floyd and how terrible that was. And that was a sad. We did a bad when we allowed George Floyd to die. But now the United States Congress and the president and all of us Americans are gonna come together. You know, like Biden's speech. We're all coming together, and now we have racial healing, right? And the inauguration, and look, we have a black woman vice president, and isn't that so heart-wrenching? You know, isn't that so moving? Like now we've healed. I mean, because it's a really tough story to sell when you have Black Lives Matter, 31 million people burn the streets down, right? And it's just historic. Look, you look outside the window, it's hard to miss the racism, right? The Nazis are just like, there's absolutely no racism. You're just either inferior or you're just a lying, screeching SJW. A lot of people don't buy that. And so you need the more nuanced, right? But it's nuanced in a way that buries the actual nuance that you need, which is, the United States is deeply, deeply, deeply much more trouble than it wants to admit. The United States, but you have to at least say that there's some flaws. You have to say that there's some flaws, but the flaws make the big lie, which is that America is still, despite its little flaws, the defender worldwide of freedom, of justice, of equality, and the bringer of human rights. That's the big lie that they are covering up. It's not. It brings suffering, it brings death, it brings racialized capitalism, it brings murder, it brings genocide, it brings war. It is the greatest global. It has 800 military bases in almost every country on earth. And so America needs this residual self-image of this slightly broken good guy rather than a handful of good people inside of a complete bad guy, which is what America actually is. Or a lot of good people that are being run completely by all bad guys. And that's actually, it's not to say that, that's not Americans are bad, but it's like the system that is governing it and what's in a lot of Americans' minds, which is this capitalist, racist realism, and America being good, is the case. It's not the case that we are all mostly good and just a couple times we slip up. Like Iron Man accidentally shot one javelin missile into an innocent community. No, the United States, 90% of its drone strikes hit innocent communities. Iron Man is, if America was honest, Iron Man would be a bad guy. That's why, again, that's why I had a whole thing about. That's why I like Peacemaker, right? Is because, like I said before, Peacemaker, its leading American white dude is not. He thinks he's the good guy, right? John Cena's Peacemaker. He thinks he's the good guy, bringing peace and justice to the world, and he says, but the whole thing is a dark comedy where he is a villain, and he makes a joke where the joke is on him, the joke is like, I will kill women and children for peace. It's like, wait, what did you just say? What did you just say? The show of the Peacemaker is not like finding out that we have a couple flaws in the United States in the West that we can fix up, right? The Peacemaker is thinking you're the good guy, and the twist is, oh shit, wait, I'm actually the bad guy, and the audience is kind of all in on it, like, wait, this guy's running around like indiscriminately slaughtering innocent people, that's what America does, just indiscriminately slaughters innocent people. and the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, you know, and so that's why it's a more honest show, which is why I'm like, James Gunn, man, I hope you keep getting shows, because America is going hard right now for like, we are the bringer of justice and freedom, and there will be zero criticism of the United States or NATO. If you criticize us at all, if you even say that America does not bring peace, period, then you are a Kremlin stooge. You are it's full of McCarthy fucking coat. This is like unhinged levels of already unhinged war propaganda times 10. We're just gonna be completely uncritical right now. That's what you're seeing, right? This like, I remember it reminds me of like 2001, early noughties, like this wall of ultra patriotism. That's like, people are dumping out their vodka. People are like, oh, what was it like? A tree, like, what was it? The tree. It was in the news. There is a tree. What was it? They've banned dogs from Russian cats from cat competitions. The Russian oak tree. Not only innocent cats and four-legged furry friends are being banned for being Russian from things. The Russian oak tree was banned from participation in a European tree of the year due to invasion of Ukraine. Anyways, it's like, this is you know, I'm again, not to say that that's a good thing that the invasion happened, but the you know, white Russians are being renamed to white Ukrainians. It's like freedom fries, remember? Freedom fries came about because the French, right? No French fries, only freedom fries, right? Freedom fries were French fries were renamed to freedom fries because in 2003 a restaurant renamed it, and in other this is not the only one, there were several, because France opposed the invasion of Iraq, right? And I mean, unless you're going to argue that unless you're going to argue that the United States really did an awesome job, right, killing 1 million Iraqis, displacing 37 million Muslims, multi-million Iraqis. If you add up all of the people in the Middle East and West Asia and Afghanistan, all those wars in all these Muslim countries, it's multi-millions of people killed, 40 million displaced, horrible suffering, bombing into the Stone Age of multiple countries, just devastation, just horrible devastation across that entire massive continent, and multiple continents. Libya's in Africa. But this renaming of the French fries to the freedom fries, right, was part of this, like, it was part of this drummed up war hysteria of just like we are just, America is here to clobber some bad guys, you know? We are the superhero America is gonna bring some motherfucking peace to this world, you know? Vigilante Batman America is gonna solve some crimes and punch out some criminals, you know? That's what movies are really for. They're for manufacturing in the hearts of Americans this feeling of vindictive, righteous vengeance, right? I am the spirit of vengeance, what Batman says, right? It's about manufacturing the spirit of like righteous, dirty, ruthless, you know, let the mightiest and the strongest and the richest like do what they need to do. Get this justice out of the way. America is the personification of peace. It is justice, and we just have to get in there and we have to just like, get us some bad guys. It's gotta get us some bad guys. It's gotta bag us some Jokers. We just gotta smack down some Lex Luthors. We're just gonna like punch out some fucking, some Thanos. We're gonna beat us some Thanos, man, with the billionaire philanthropist arms dealer Playboy, and snapping his fingers, man. Him and Captain Star Spangled Underpants and the U.S. military on their giant floating aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, but floating. That's what the Avengers craft is, right? We're gonna get us some fucking bad guys, man. Russian, Chinese, probably. Gonna get it inside. We're gonna get some black and brown criminals. All these poor people on the streets. We're gonna get us some. The police are gonna get them some bad criminals in Gotham, in the cities, and outside the world police, the U.S. military is gonna get them some Russians and Chinese, some purple, Asian ciphered communists, because one child policy, Thanos, half the population gone. Anyway, we're gonna get us some nasty peoples now, and that's what superhero movies are about. They're about good guys and bad guys, and they're like it's the church of Star-Spangled full spectrum dominance, right? Where every week you renew your internal sense of you being the good guy. You renew your inner, maybe a little bit flawed. Maybe I should have gone to AA a couple times. Maybe I could be a little better anger management. It's too bad that I'm divorced, but it's okay. I'm a good guy. I have flaws, but I'm the good guy, and I'm gonna go. And that's why I'm gonna sign up for the war, and I'm gonna go kill me some sand N-words, because I have a few flaws, but those people are really bad. There's some really bad people. There's some really bad Muslims down. There's some Muslims out there. We gotta ban them from coming in. There's some Mexicans and there's some drug dealers down there down there. They got rapists and murderers. They're all standing there, bad people. And we need some strong police officers to police them inside here. We need some good strong men to beat them up. We gotta send some big strong guys out there we got some really bad terrorists out there. They got Afghan people. They got some I think they have communists out there somewhere in Asia. I don't know. I don't care where. You gotta go beat them up. That's why anti-communism is really coming back right now. Putin you saw a picture of Putin. He's a Mongolian. Putin is reverting to his Asian past, right? And you have Putin in a Mongolian barbarian horde, like charging across Europe, and it's full on fucking yellow peril, which is a German colonial war trope. Fear of the East coming for the West. There's some bad people out there. We gotta go beat them. I'm not saying that he's the best guy in the world. Also, I want to say that. But we have to have a no-fly zone and start war with. The United States has to start war with Russia to beat them up. 80% of the United States is ready. Have said that they want a no-fly zone to confront Russia and have military confrontation with Russia. So that's super dangerous. It's actually there's only a handful of slightly sane generals and people calling shots right now that are not doing that, and the people that actually have to pull the triggers and actually are there's a handful of people that maybe don't understand what that means, which is that you're gonna bring about nuclear annihilation. And thank God there's a handful of slightly sane people left in the West. The doomsday clock is not accurate. We're actually 0.5 seconds to midnight, but the doomsday clock is also its own form of propaganda that's not accurately portraying how off its shit the West is right now, because it wants to start another war with China. It's gearing towards Taiwan and Ukraine are the two sledgehammers that are being used to hit the two enemies. And again, not to say that those countries are perfect, but what the U.S. wants is pushing towards nuclear annihilation. And if that doesn't happen, there's still all the war, the spending, the military, cutting off half the world, all of this increased violence and conflict, which has been pushed up by Western aggression, by expansion towards the fucking East. I mean, it's very, very clear if there was any history and any education system in the West. There isn't any. So people don't know, and people don't care. People don't talk about this shit. But but anyway, so back to so the problem with all these Batmans is that comic books are for children, and comic book movies, which are the most popular and the most well received and most well watched, most full spectrum media and eyeball time dominating narratives. Comic books are for children, and the West and the United States are countries full of children. That's what that actually is about. Because they only see good guys and bad guys in simple black and white terms with slight shades of, I only work in black and very dark gray. At best, Batman is slightly flawed, but he's still a good guy. And Iron Man, the US is slightly flawed, but it's still a good guy. And those are still bad guys out there. I mean, when he kills Thanos fucking deserved it, man. Holy shit. When America went to Iraq, I mean, yeah, we might have killed 1 million of them. And yeah, a lot of children, women, hospitals, But hey, we kill women and children for peace, right? Like Peacemaker said. Hey, yeah, we might have killed some innocent people. Okay, maybe 90% of the drone strikes are hitting innocent women and children. That's like scientifically proven by multiple sources. Okay, but I mean, like, those are from I'm sure that Afghani child probably stole some gum from the liquor store. Oh, they don't have any liquor stores because we bombed them out. Well, I'm sure that child probably like stole his neighbor's cinder block. You know, and that child, that's a drug dealer child. That's probably, it's not even a white child. And all the white children, because they're not European, right? They're not civilized, are bad, right? Because that's what Europe and America are saying. Non-civilized countries like Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and Libya, those are where these wars happen. Wars don't happen in white European Christian nations and civilized peoples. Europeans are saying this shit out loud right now. America, it's funny because the only person that had the common decency to go like, hey, I should choose my words carefully. He said, you know, these wars that happen in Ukraine, these are things you expect you don't expect this in a civilized European nation. Oh, I should probably choose. You expect to see this in Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya. He didn't, and he's like, oh, I should probably choose my words carefully, right? And he's like, oh, I should probably be sensitive to something that, you know. He thinks too late, man. You already said those words. You already said what you already masked off yourself, you know. But Europe is just full. Europe, it doesn't even recognize how racist it is to say shit like, you know, the Spanish were over there like, we have to let in the white Europeans, but we have to make sure that we keep out and fight to push out all Muslims and black. They just said it like full on, just mask. I was amazed. I was like, wow. Let's see if I can get that quote. The Spanish, you know, they said the French were like, we have to, you know, the Spanish and the French were just, the Spanish politician was like, we're gonna let white people in, we're gonna let the Europeans in from Ukraine, but we are gonna make sure to fight. We have to fight hard to push all of the Muslims out of our country and make sure they stay out. Keep the Muslims out, keep the blacks out. And he just said it. But that's what the Europeans are really gearing to. They're full on like, we have to stay white, Christian, good countries, and we have to continue to subjugate and put into concentration camps at the borders. Drown in the Mediterranean, keep everyone of any color darker than like a mocha latte. Gotta keep those people far out. There's no like, maybe I should be sensitive about what. Maybe I should. There's no. I didn't see a single French, German, Swedish. Swedish are like funding and arming with the United States in Afghanistan and all these wars too. There wasn't a single Swedish, German, French, Dutch, Spanish who said like, maybe I should choose my words carefully. Maybe that was kind of racist what I just said. No, they're just like full on. No, that's we hate black people, we hate Muslims in Europe. We gotta keep them out. You know, we gotta keep those people far away from us, and that's really fucked up. But you know, but anyway, and so that's part of this denial, which is that NATO, which is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is here to bring freedom and justice and equality, and it fights civilized wars. You know, it fights civilized wars. And then the other, it's like, are you fighting wars or are you not fighting wars? You know, is war civilized or is it uncivilized? Because they said things like, civilized countries do not fight wars. There has never been any war in civilized countries since World War II. The U.S. has never not been at war for the last 80 years basically. It's been in multiple wars for the last couple decades. What are you talking about? So is the U.S. uncivilized or is it not civilized? You know? But is NATO, that has participated in these wars, right? Sweden, which has sent soldiers to go kill innocent people in Afghanistan with the U.S. Australia, killing people with the UK, with the U.S. into Iraq. France, in Libya. What? Are you civilized or are you not civil? Or what? You know? But no. The West is just full on, completely inconsistent, completely full to the brim of racism, of civilized versus savage narrative, completely full of this duplicitous, nonsensical, completely childish, backward ass talk. Jens Stoltenberg, the head of NATO, every day comes out with another ridiculous statement about We must stop this aggression. There has never been a civilized country at war. We must not allow white Europeans to suffer under this horrible Asian dictator, this and that, you know. And again, you know, not to say that there's not, you know, issues in Russia and stuff, but it's like the way that they're couching this thing, it is all the Asians that I know are increasing. Like one of our friends that was on one of the recent panels was like, you know, I'm gonna turn this off because I'm not really talking about Batman right now. All my Asian friends and my students are getting spat on. Like every day, more people that I know in my Asian community are getting beat up and killed. Like, and this like the anti-China stuff is going into is centering more on anti-Russia stuff, but now it's anti-Asia generally and Asianification of Russia, and then we're coming for China. China is not sanctioning Russia, and so now China is in this, and it's just like what's his name? Brian Berletic was like, hey, any Asians or anybody that's remotely not ready to toe this unhinged, fucking disgusting, racist, warmonger party line that's gonna happen right now, which is any criticism of any U.S. policies, any criticism of Europe, NATO is the enemy, and you're gonna go, you know, you're gonna lose your job, you're gonna be fucking tarred and feathered, you're gonna lose your social media, you're gonna lose your job doing actual journalism at a mainstream news organizations, just getting there, doing actual journalism, you know, whether that's at RT or any of these other ones that are now being attacked. You're just gonna get shut down. You're gonna get your all your financial transactions, all your platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, your Google Pay, your Apple, your everything's gonna be gone. If you even dare to claim that the United States has stood for anything but freedom and justice and is on the right side of history, if you even think about talking about how we might have a little bit of a blood on our hands historically in all the wars we're still in, you know, if you even think of talking about that, you are an enemy. You are working for the enemy. You are working for fascism that is Vladimir Putin specifically, and Russia, and you are with the enemy. If you're not with us, you're against us, and you are to be wiped out. And also Asians, and Brian was like, you know what America did the last time? It was seriously going into war footing with Asians. It's not, internment camps are not off the table for Asians. You know, that's one people that America was willing to intern, put inside of concentration camps. You know, which the death camps in the Nazi, to be clear, in the Nazi Germany, the death camps were concentration camps were places where people were being put based on ethnicities. They became the death camps at the end, but they started out as just simply places to move masses of people based on ethnicity, which is what America did. So it was a concentration of Japanese and Asians of any type into regions like where George Takei's family went. And so if you are Asian in the United States, it is a very dark time. Not just Asian, if you are anything left of Joe Biden, it's a very dark time. If you are trying to do anti-imperialism, it's a very hard time. If you want to give the obviously legitimate criticisms that there exist, there are mountains of them, of the United States, it's going to be a very hard time. You know, now that doesn't mean don't do it, but that means that that is a reality that's happening. So, you know, but it's like, you know, if you are actually, you know, not to say that you want to be a superhero, but if you actually do want to actually be somebody who is courageous under fire, now is the time to actually show that you are capable, despite all of these attempts to crush, because this is the most important time when America is about to start more catastrophic aggression, wars, cold wars that will harm and kill and cause suffering to billions. Whatever happens with these sanctions, are war. Sanctions don't really hurt. The sanctions hurt more. I've been over this so many times. Sanctions hurt more the people at the bottom than anything else, right? Like in Venezuela, 40,000 dead from U.S. sanctions in 1 year alone, 2019. Sanctions in Iraq, confirmed by Madeleine Albright in the United States administration in the 90s to have killed 500,000 people. And she said, well, it was acceptable. It was acceptable to kill 500,000 innocent people with sanctions due to starvation, lack of medical care, and knock-on poverty.
women and children and disabled and elderly. That's who suffers under sanctions. And Madeleine Albright says that was acceptable to get to fight for freedom and justice in the Middle East. Again, peacemaker is the United States. You know, I will kill women and children for peace, but he doesn't. But it's actually worse because peacemaker at least thinks he's fighting for peace. Peacemaker is like the U.S. soldier. The Waller character that orders Peacemaker is the actual United States, which they know they're not here for peace. They're here to defend billionaires' profit and their own careers, and they're gonna kill women and children for money and power. You know, and then a lot of Americans are thinking they're gonna kill women and children for peace. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're killing innocent people, 90%. So now is a time when the actual Dark Knights, coming back to Batman, the actual people who want to be real heroes will be actual journalists, the actual people standing on the right side saying, no, we cannot increase the aggression here. We have to stand against imperialism. The thing is, you know, you can say imperialism. The thing is, most of America don't fucking know what imperialism is. And this is where storytellers have to come in. I mean, this is what my thing I try to come home to as a storyteller, right? As a narrative constructor, is we need to be narrative constructors on the right side of history, right? Not telling the lies, right? That's what I try to do with Neofeud, is to be like, the people that are actually doing the good are the poverty alleviators, right? Are the anti-war terminators that are trying to fight, trying to be a dad while being broken by the country that sent you off to go kill innocent leftists in the second Dresden firebombing. Not too far away from what's kind of happening, which is the U.S. supporting fascist elements in Europe to crush for its own geopolitical interests. Not necessarily to crush communism right now, but it is supporting. You know, Neofeud is predicting the future right now, which is the U.S. would support far-right elements, right? If you remember Todd, right? Todd is a hippie Terminator. His exact line is, you know, how you holding up, Marine? And he's like, hey, I'm just keeping it together with peace and love, my man. You know, 2 tours of duty in the second Dresden firebombing really took me to the heart of darkness. When we were burning the leftist uprising out of Germany, you know, I got my leg shot off with a depleted uranium round and cooked my motherboard. And I was like, but I'm reformed, friend. I've opened up my third eye. You know, war, what is it good for? You know, so the point of the hippie Terminator character is like, he's somebody who has gone off to do a peacemaking in Europe. You know, that character I was showing you a little bit earlier, the character from Neofeud, he went out to do this, and then he discovered, oh my God, what was I doing? I was killing people on the right side of history. I was killing people just trying to fight for the needs of their own people, for their housing and their food and their clothing under a socialism, right? Burning the leftists out of Germany. I was there to fight. I was killing people like Vietnam War soldiers. I was killing Vietnamese people who didn't want us there, who were trying to fight for their own needs. And America was trying to fight to kill Vietnamese people and plunder that country for its billionaires. You know, and that's really what that character in Neofeud is about. So it's, you know, you know what I'm saying, right? And so that's where I'm trying to do storytelling in the Silver Spoon games, whether that's Decolonators, right? Which is where you play a Vietnamese communist woman fighting against a genocidal, needless U.S. war of aggression for the military-industrial complex to stop the spread of poverty alleviation, socialism, or communism, right? And you know, and so storytellers, you know, because not everybody is gonna sit there. Hopefully one day you can have 200 pages of text, and every American and every German and every French and every British, because these people don't have educations, otherwise they wouldn't be full gung-ho behind war propaganda laced in lies, right? Again and again. One day you could have the text and just discuss the history with every American, all 330 million, and everyone in Europe, and they could all the hundreds of millions, and they could all like go, okay, this is the history, and this is what it is. These are the facts. These are the actual facts on the ground. Should we go? this war is going to be catastrophic for us. We're going to lose gas and fossil fuels, and Nord Stream is not going to go through. 40% of our energy is going to evaporate, and then we're going to not be able to make our cars or trucks. We're going to freeze in this, not over winter. We're going to have huge inflation. We're gonna have bread lines in Europe and in the United States. We're gonna run out of food. We're gonna run out of our cars. We're gonna run out of semiconductor. This is gonna hurt us, the people of the U.S. and of Europe. This is gonna have a huge refugee crisis. Whether we want it, it's gonna increase our far right propensity because we're gonna have floods of people coming from all over the place in an already burdened, nearly broken-backed social safety net of the so-called SOCDEM Europe. This war, this Cold War, this aggression is this NATO aggression, this U.S.-led, jingoism and warmongering. This is gonna destroy us. We need to all, not just a handful of Danny Haifong and the Silver Spook here, the Native Hawaiian, working at a cooperative trying to say some, not just like 2 people and everyone else like timidly going about their day, retweeting, oh, let's send more money into neo-Nazis to fight wars that we don't know about. Ideally there would be 330 million people at the level of where not because I'm like so awesome, I'm just like some random person, there would be 330 million people saying what Danny Haifong and I say, and it would be because they would have looked at the history, looked at the facts, and made like rational, informed decisions as part of a so-called democracy. And the rational, informed decision would be, don't fight these wars, try to cooperate, don't expand military bases east into Europe, have neutral countries like Vietnam and Hawaii, neutral countries, right? It's very important. That's like, I'm gonna do a whole fucking video just about what it means to be a neutral country and why neutral countries, why neutrality is important, and why military alliances like NATO are very dangerous, especially when there's nuclear superpowers and there's huge, very powerful militarily enhanced world mega hyperpowers out there, and why neutral countries are so important and why that is very dangerous. But we can't have that rational, very kind of it's not basic rational evidence-based democratic discussions, because there, like I often bring up, there's no such thing as truth and there's no education in the West, but not what it really matters. Because if there was, Americans who are being hurt as your price at your pump is going up, Europeans whose gas is like quadrupled, you have like 1,000% increases in energy of certain types, you could have nuclear war and then there's no Europe. How does this enhance the security of Europe? Right? It's even if you look at the NATO's charter, which is no country can be allowed. Ukraine's on the table, it can be allowed. There is no evidence-based rational argument that can be made that would suggest that Ukraine's allowing Ukraine into NATO would enhance the security of Europe. This is actually kind of proving why it doesn't. But that's not a discussion that even these so-called enlightened countries of Europe, these French, these Germans, these Swedish, the vast majority, the Italy, they're all gung-ho full behind this nonsense, racist, war footing. There were a few that were trying to. There were some elements inside, but they were not the majority of those countries. They were not the rule. They were not what the decisions that these countries take. That are still what they're taking. They are choosing to align behind the United States. They're getting into their NATO umbrella. They're digging their heels in, and everyone who maybe there are some rational, educated people, but either they are too they're too scared. They're too bought in. They're too comfortable. They're too racist. They're too racist. That's a big one. But whatever it is, they're too diseducated. They're too disinformed by the so-called free-thinking, enlightened West. How it is the free thinking is very is really, this is really the tactic is, you say we need free everything, free markets, free thinking, free everything, and then you center the control over all thought into a handful of private companies, and then you say government and politics are separate, and then you have a handful of the oligarch billionaires enslave everyone's thinking to their disinformation system, and then you can proclaim it's a very brilliant strategy if you are a fucking horrible evil Emperor Palpatine type person, right? If you're like a Lex Luthor, if you are like a Kingpin in the Batman sense, if you are like a Joker type person, and you want to continue to dominate the world in a barbaric might makes right, win-lose colonization, win-lose capitalist sense, it sounds really good to the average idiot, the average diseducated Westerner. Oh yeah, freedom of speech, free thinking, free markets, free sounds good, right? Human rights, and then you say these things, and that's not about human rights, but then you don't really define exactly what you mean, and then you pump lies and diseducation about what the history is and what that means. And then people can say, oh yeah, no, we're a free country, but you don't actually realize you're the most propagandized, the most controlled country. It's just that the control is not coming from necessarily government, not directly government censorship, government propaganda, right? Per se, it's coming from the non-governmental corporate or NGO or other sector that's or some combination of them manipulating the government and then them manipulating the media and everything that you consume, and then determining what goes into all the time. And then you go, oh, you see, it's everything is very free and we're all very open. But that point, that total maximum quote unquote freedom, your freedom always has to be understood in the context of responsibility, history, and the interconnectedness and the dialectical relationships, right? The ecological relationships, the historical relationships of all people to each other. Like this idea that there are individual metaphysical, it's very Platonic. Plato was the godfather of this Western bullshit, a lot of it. There's just, imagine the perfect rational actor somewhere out in the space, up there with Galactus, in abstract mathematical space-time. Imagine a free-thinking rational actor, and that's you. You are unfettered by any government, any ideology, any controlling narrative, and you are free to make up your mind. That's not how actual reality functions. It's not how society function. It is idealistic. It is childish. Just like comic book and comic book movies. It's childish. It's simplistic. It's overly reductive. It's false. Things don't exist. Imagine the economics profession in the West is the same way. Imagine, positive. That's what they say. That's a joke. It's like, it's like, how can we get milk from rocks? Well, posit that rocks are mammalian animals with large udders akin to cows. Then simply milk the rock. I mean, that's how economics works. Posit Homo economicus, this perfectly functioning, perfectly rational actor that always makes the most efficient decision every time they go to pick 3 apples versus 2 oranges at the market. It's just this ridiculous nonsense. It's disconnected from reality. That's why actual economists like Michael Hudson and folks like that are like, economics they teach in the West is science fiction. This Harvard, Yale, NYU, average universities, all universities in the United States, they don't teach economics in the West, in the US. They teach this alternate reality where free markets function. It's historically proven based on empirical evidence that this is false. But it's the same thing for this whole freedom narrative. They're always in balance with your freedom. You have freedom to do as long as you're not impinging on other people's own freedoms, as well as the history and the history of freedom, justice, equality, and responsibility are all integrally tied up and ecologically related. But that has to be thrown aside for the storytelling, what the West excel at: storytelling, narrative constructing, lying. Very dramatic, the Greek arc. Actually, it's one interesting thing I found about China was that the Chinese music, I think Confucius and the Chinese philosophers actually said, we want to have musicians were not allowed actually to play music when in states of extreme emotional, when in extreme emotional states, anger, sadness, fear, extreme exuberance of any type. I was like, what? Why is that? And he actually said, and the Chinese they studied music, and they said, because when you have large crowds and you have certain types of, it's kind of story, music is a kind of storytelling. And when you have certain types of music that drums up extreme emotions in people, this can cause people to be led and to feel in mass large crowds in certain ways that can be destructive if their hearts and minds are pulled too extremely in certain directions. This can have actual negative consequences to the civilization. And I was like, it's like, you gotta really, I mean, the level of insight, you know, and they actually compared it to, this is why European music is the way that it is, the Wagner is the way that it is, and the storytelling and the narrative, not to say the storytelling is something wrong with storytelling drama, and there's places for that, but it was like, and we want people to feel tranquility, we want people to feel connection with each other and with nature, we want people to feel, in the Chinese music, this is something that they wrote, we want this music to result finally in more unity and more, I mean, you can have ups and downs, but we want ultimately this to result in more unity, equilibrium, mutual understanding, and reduce strife, you know. And also the storytelling is like that. Like there are stories, right? But we want the stories to end in actual with bringing people together and understanding, not stories to end in justifying wars, which is what the West is doing, right? Which is about increasing good guy and bad guy, international, inter-ethnic, inter-nation, right? Inter-race strife and demonization, and and these kinds of things. We want in the end to but that's what the West does. The West is the best at drumming up extreme emotions, and then taking those like oh my god, the baby's in the incubator, and then taking those emotions and then flooding and then aiming those like an ion cannon wherever the richest, most powerful people need it to go, like into Afghanistan, into Iraq, right? Like anti-Asian racism, the capitalist, aiming the discontent of 1870s unionists, socialists, Emmer Goldman, and these organizers who were trying to organize the working classes in the very economically serious depressions in the late 1800s, and aim it at the Chinese and go lynch the Chinese. That's what the problem is. Not the capitalism that's destroying America and harming you. The Chinese Exclusion Act. That's what they aimed at. Labor organizers, I did a whole thing on John Swinton, right? It's about taking all the upset and then constructing this huge narrative, drumming up all the upset, and then going, everybody go kill those bad people. Everybody go kill those Chinese. Everybody go kill Russians and kill Chinese right now. Again, right? Kill the Muslims in the 2000s, right? Everybody take all of this energy, take all of your emotional distraught, take all of this worry, take all of the 9/11, right? Take all of that and, whoa, look at this evil person that the CIA made, Osama. Like, take all of this, and the thing is, Osama knew that was what they were going to do, and he's like, oh, this is going to wreck America because they're going to fight these, they're going to waste all of their resources and energy. It did harm and kill millions of innocent people as well, which is, there's another argument, but it did also like cause America to fight its Achilles heel, it's British Suez Canal, these kind of like dying end game wars, where it overextends itself and then it plunges itself into the abyss. America did like start plunging itself deeper and deeper into the abyss around that era. But anyways, so the point is the storytelling, both in the non-fiction public, private, and charter schools, in the history books, in your sociology books, and your university books as well, and in your news media, in your mainstream media, in your New York Times bestseller, in all fiction and non-fiction. There's only fiction, I would argue. There's no such thing as a non-fiction section in any Western library. Everything's fiction, especially when it really matters, like in history. There's only fiction sections, and all of it is geared to constructing these narratives about the good guys and the bad guys, and you're the good guys and those are the bad guys. Go get them, especially now. We will have and even if you, I thought you care about freedom of speech. If you now, let's say you believe in that. If the freedom to if the arguments will win out in the end. Why are you banning? I mean, why don't you not let the American journalists at RT just like say what they're gonna say? If people are rational actors and the truth will win out, why are you so scared of what they're gonna say? You know, and they even said like we criticize Abby Martin, Chris Hedges, like I criticize Russia all the time on their RT. You know, it was the only place that I could say anything at all to ever criticize the U.S. because the truth is the U.S. has a much stronger propaganda machine. It has more money, it has more power, it has more access. It has, and now you know why China and Russia were like making their own payment systems and social media and other international currency SWIFT alternatives to SWIFT. I talk about SWIFT a lot on these things. It's very important. You see it happening now. It's weaponized against Russia, and that's why, because that is the weapon. And all like every time I finish a stream, I say, follow me on Mastodon. It's a decentralized, non-capitalist, federated, open source social media platform. But while we have access to the Death Star satellites, you can also follow me on Twitter. You can see it. You can see the ion cannon of Twitter being aimed with all the blue check marks and all the biggest takes, all the frontline pages, all the headlines thrown to the top of Twitter and Facebook, being aimed into everyone's brain to force everybody into this new Cold War. You can see it being bought, and they're like, well, the Death Star is the informational Death Star is powering all of its levers to maximum strength right now. You can see it going, and that's why I call it. I mean, it's like, you know, ideally, well, you know, one day we won't have to, but you know, it's like, I mean, it's still where a lot of the reach is. So I can like, if I can take one lever and go, hey everybody, let's not, and it's to Americans' interests, like I often bring up. It is not in the interest of the average American to be in any of these wars and to be to be even hyping up the aggression around these Cold Wars, which are already gonna hit you. They're already hitting you with this prices at the pump, with the 7.5 to 10% inflation and counting. You know, with all the cutting off half of the world, Russian steel. I'm like, oh fuck, Russians can't buy Neofeud or any other game because they're cutting off all the payment systems, right? From PayPal, from Google Play, from Facebook. So you and how many others? You know, the thing is, people are saying you should boycott McDonald's and Coca-Cola because they're still selling, you know, Coke Zero and a McDoubles in Moscow. You know, and it's like, I don't like McDonald's and I don't like Coke. I mean, it's giant capitalist corporations that make shitty food that cause quadruple bacon burger heart attack specials and, you know, lard filling diabetes, guaranteed diabetes soft drink, you know, 52 ounce wastes of plastic and fucking water, and stealing water from farmers in South America and India. But anyways, so like, I don't particularly like those companies, but like, this is anybody doing any business anywhere in the world, and people's jobs who depend on a lot of this are like going to be going away. People who relied on a lot of people that are like in other parts of the world, they're like, I'm suddenly cut off from a lot of people that I used to sell. There are YouTubers that are like, they just sound Russian, and everyone is just like, you sound Russian, that means you're evil, and they're just like, get out of here, you enemy, you freaking terrible person, you genocider. And it's like the hysteria, like, there is, you know, the anti-Russian, anti-Asian hysteria is just like blasting through the roof right now, and it is harming people economically. And the Americans are not even willing to admit this themselves. They are getting harmed. They're like some of them are so fucking full of this manufactured war propaganda, racist, which all racism is a language of war, justifies wars on places across the world that we are supposed to be blowing up because they're bad because that's what the TV said. That's what my newsfeed said. That's what the New York Times said. So like those Americans are being harmed economically. They're being harmed, and other people around them, not just Americans, South Americans, people across the world. They're like, oh my God, I have to choose which half of the planet I want to sell to. That's gonna cut the business in half. That's gonna cut your jobs in half. That's gonna cut the supply chain in half. America is not capable of building back better. America is going to be eaten alive in terms of its access to its vehicles, its cost of its products, gas, milk, food, housing, lumber, electronics. You know, the thing is, the U.S. wants to. The thing is, U.S. can't sanction Russia to the level that the real sanction that would really hurt is the big one is the energy when Russia turns off 40% of Europe's gas. If you really want to fuck around and find out, that would be not only to Europe, that would actually to the U.S. The U.S. if we were to sanction China, the U.S. would fall into complete collapse, and I've talked about that in the last year. You know, it would obliterate its entire reality, it might actually accidentally cause a revolution. That's part of the reason why is America doesn't want to accidentally cause, not necessarily it's going to be a left revolution, but it want to cause like actual undoing of its entire societal structure and government, because that would destabilize which billionaires are on the top. Or, something, it's like playing Wheel of Fortune, right? So America doesn't want to so destabilize itself such that the food goes to like $300 for a slice of bread, because then, everyone will be in the fucking streets after that. The US knows this. That's what the Maslow's pyramid is for. So because 550 calories per person was determined to be what is necessary to actually cause massive instability and uprisings in the Tunisia and the Arab Spring, for example, which were manufactured. It was a test of social media, and in coordination with international SWIFT and Wall Street high frequency advanced stock trading, and commodity speculation, high frequency algorithmic commodity speculation. I often bring up, I almost went to Wall Street as a programmer to become a Goldman Sachs high frequency trading algorithm programmer. What the early noughties and the late early noughties and the teens are about was about testing this infrastructure for, trying to not blow the whole financial system up while wrecking entire countries by jacking prices of particular commodities like grain, like rice, so high that it caused instability in places like Libya. And the thing is, like, Gaddafi and Libyans actually got it under control. And then Hillary Clinton said, well, bomb them anyway and kill them all because I want to get rid of Gaddafi. Basically, I don't want any African country with socialism, with universal healthcare, with free education, with African monetary fund bringing people out of poverty. I don't want any Africans reading, with trains, with jobs, and with air conditioning. That's what Hillary Clinton and Macron came together. The America and French plutocracy imperialists came together and they said, bomb Libya anyway. But anyways, so what am I saying? So the international games that they're playing right now are going to hurt America. It's going to hurt Europe. And people not understanding this is, again, if people actually had an education, like an actual education, like just even a pretty basic one in the US and Europe, in history, in current events, in politics, in economics, in the important subjects that actually impact our lives the most, stuff that like Democracy at Work tries to do, if they had an actual basic education and then they acted in what was even in their own best interest, they would not be engaging in what they're engaging in now. But there isn't an education system. There's a diseducation system, and there is a conditioning. There's a consent manufacturing system. There is an indoctrination system, and there's a diseducation system. There's not an education system. There's a lot of, maybe in math and electrical engineering and a few things that they need. You can learn certain things, but you don't learn what you really need to learn, right? Because if you did, you wouldn't be continuously, again and again, repeatedly, led into these horrible, self-destructive and globe-destructive wars and aggression, like the Gulf War, Middle East, the Iraq War, Syrian War, again and again and again. You wouldn't have this. Anyways, I've made that point, I think. So now it is 1:23. So in short, Batman is a movie about Robert Pattinson not being Twilight. That's what it's about. The Batman is a movie that you can see or not see. Obviously, that's not what I always do my streams about. Although I do a little commentary on the Batman, and then I do other things because I'm streaming from the Death Star satellites. I'm streaming from I'm streaming from section G3 of the Death Star. It's really, if you think of it as like every Western corporate information entity is a piece of the informational and educational, ultimately by extension, control mechanism for the planet. This is just another part of that. Twitter is one very important part of that. Facebook is a big important part of that Death Star's informational ion cannon. And then there's a little Death Stars called the U.S. military industrial complex and all of its it's F-35s, F-22s, it's Reapers, it's drones, it's air-sea battle staging, aircraft carriers, it's destroyers, it's drone swarming warfare, it's nuclear submarines, it's hybrid warfare, it's cyber warfare divisions, etc., 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 which are, importantly, thank God, the cyber warfare divisions of the United States are like kindergarten compared to China's. And China also has a septillion times faster quantum supercomputers that in 1 millisecond compute what it takes 30 trillion years for an American supercomputer to compute at best. Thank God, because I mean, that's the only saving grace is the Death Star is not as powerful as the Empire relative to the Life Star. The Death Star on Earth relative to the Star Wars Empire's Death Star is not as hegemonical as the Star Wars Empire would have liked it to be. The Life Star is actually on Earth is actually more powerful by the West Zone admittance, which is a positive, hopeful thing to keep in mind. So you don't fall into complete doomering out. And as long as we survive this, things will get better for everyone. We have to like minimize the damage and the suffering in this very difficult time. And so unmasking the truth. So what Batman is actually about is Batman is about unmasking the war propagandist lies and revealing, because Batman I heard this story is more like a detective story. So it's like taking the mask off and seeing the truth beneath the lies. You're going, wait, that's a peace. It's a peace symbol, and it's a LGBTQ plus flag, and then it's a Black Lives Matter flag. That's who we're sending money to, right? Over there in Europe. And then you take the mask off, right? You take the peace symbol and the women and people of color matter flag off, and then you find an Azov battalion SS swastika. Oh shit, is that the truth? Oh my God, have I been funding the Nazis through my Patreon donations into that particular Patreon? Oh my goodness, is that who I was funding? Oh, is that who I was supporting? Was fascist, just like America did in World War II, until like the very end when they pretended to have won the war, right? And then they did storytelling for the rest of the time in Hollywood about how America fought fascists rather than supported them, and how the Russians and with storytelling, right? Like Saving Private Ryan, and all of the World War II movies, right? How and all of Call of Colonialism and Call of Duty and Battlefields, right? And all of these World War II games and movies that are about storytelling, that are about lying, to say that America didn't support fascists, America fought the fascists, America won the war, as opposed to the Russians or the Chinese who actually won the fucking war. And that America, even before that, had been supporting the white army after the Russian Revolution, had been supporting fascists in Asia on both sides, have been supporting anyone that they need to support to stop the spread of communism through Europe, to stop the spread of decolonialism. Because colonialism and communism, decolonization and communism often come together. That's what Decolonators is about. It's about, that's why I love Vietnam, because it's like a place that America has a direct link to, that is a very clear victory for undoing colonization, undoing racist invasion, and C slurs and G slurs that racism was part of the Vietnam War. We gotta wipe out those little freaking Asian, and using a very derogatory racist term for them. It was about kicking out racism. It was about kicking out colonizers, the French and American imperialists, and it was also about capitalism getting its ass kicked by communists, women, communist Asian women. That's why decolonization is perfect. I mean, Vietnam. I chose Vietnam not only because Luna Oy is a good friend of mine, but also because that's the storytelling in games and movies that we need. And you got to be very brave to do that. And I'm not saying that I'm so fucking brave, but if you're making a mainstream movie where the main character was a woman Vietnamese communist, what I want to see is James Gunn, Taika Waititi, and all the biggest and the best actors and the biggest Hollywood movie. This is how we know that America is on the right path. When the biggest Hollywood movie that everyone is seeing and is blowing the fucking box office records off the hinges is a movie where the main character is a Vietnamese communist woman fighting against capitalism. When that happens, then I'm like, oh wow, we might actually be on a better. And America isn't like thumbsing it down because it's insulted. America is grown up and understands its place and its history, and it is an adult and rational and educated enough to watch a movie about a Vietnamese communist woman kicking American capitalist ass and like give it a positive review, and then go out and demand the end of the military-industrial complex. And then that's how you know, but that's what I want to see. I don't think I'm gonna say, I'm guessing I'm not gonna see that. I hope I'm wrong. It's probably just gonna be broody white guys being rich and sad while beating up on poor people of color and pretending to save the world for the duration. But Peacemaker gives me hope. Peacemaker gives me hope because Peacemaker is getting there, because Peacemaker is like, oh man, we got something really wrong here. Peacemaker's like, oh shit, we got some real problems, man. We gotta deal with this. The next step is like, not only do we have some real problems and we gotta deal with this shit, but like those communists in Asia over there, they have been in the right, and we have to learn from them. That's a whole nother level of self-reflection. That's actually what but I don't know. I'm gonna hold out for that. I'm gonna go like Taika, James Gunn, I don't know, Ridley Scott, whoever the fuck is directing nowadays. I don't know. Somebody go out there, make the Decolonizers movie, where it's an Asian communist woman kicking Battle of Lake Changjin, but that's China. But we need Americans making massive, powerful, entertaining, funny, makes you laugh, makes you cry, people that are as witty and funny as Robert Downey playing the main character while being fucking Asian communist kicking capitalist ass. And then when the storytelling that is at the highest levels, that is like as successful as Infinity War 2, Call of Duty, Battlefield 2042, Overwatch, when the thing is, then they'll be like, oh, maybe there's an education system in the West again. Maybe there's truth there. But what we don't have, we don't have that yet. We have sad, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying that the movie sucks. I'm sure this movie is really good, And but Batman is a billionaire philanthropist, playboy. And the closest we can get is Batman is a billionaire philanthropist, playboy, and he's a creepy dweeb. He's a creepy Elon, like Elon Musk said, right? Batman is a billionaire philanthropist, playboy, and like Elon Musk, he is a creepy evil dweeb, but that's as close as we're gonna get. He's over there like sending weird like, stop asking me for pics of my feet, man. Like that's what I picture Robert, he's like trying to hit on girls awkwardly, like he's just kind of a creep, he's over there like tweeting gross stuff like about MRA, and he's kind of a dork because he's like got his dorky haircut, and he's got his boring machine that's kind of lame, and it doesn't really reduce traffic very much, and he's just kind of a dweeb, he's just kind of a dork, and so we that's good. It's a good start, but we gotta get even more. You have creepy emo dweeb noir, protagonist with Vietnamese communist fighter, something like this. Maybe like Judo Master, the sidekick can be the Asian communist in the first one, and then gets like a spin-off show where the Asian communist is like the main character or something, and then gets an entire movie or something, but we gotta bootstrap the storytelling. Anyways, enough talking about billionaires, dweeb noir, and CEO village vigilantes. I should probably end the stream. I haven't, by the way, also, no shade to Edward Norton, no shade to Christian Bale, stare very dramatically and seriously off with your method acting, British face. I mean, no shade, reasonably good movies. Okay, watch the Max. I love the Max, but anyways, one of these days I'm gonna do one just on the Max. But and homeless people and social worker main character play Neofeud. I'm sorry. I'm just closing all my. I'm closing all my tabs. I got too many. Don't support the Azov Battalion, please. Jesus. So don't forget, Neofeud is a game that's on Steam. It does support everything that we do here at the Silver Spook Hui /cooperative /commune, where we are Hawaiian and Asian and fun fact, actually, we have some people who are descendants of Ukrainian left Ukraine, not the Nazi Ukrainians from the earlier wave. So we have some people that are at least descendants of left commie Ukrainians and Hawaiians and Asians, sir. Making communist video games or making, indigenous, which is basically socialist and communist in practice, Hawaiian games. And if you want to support this and the feeding and housing and clothing and doing the social work, doing the caring work for people who are very broken or partially broken, here at the Silver Spook Hui, you can please support us by picking up the game, or also by spreading the word and telling people about it. Of course, becoming a patron. Consider how much is the education / entertainment. How much is the edutainment worth to you? $1 a month, $2 a month, because it really does help. We lost like 5 or 6 patrons this month. I know it's been hard this month. Some people have like, hey, this new Cold War and this Western aggression that's needless and should be cooperative is hitting us too. Like, I just lost like a ton of patrons. Like, and I noticed like it's things have gone down like in terms of like the total revenue. So I understand the people have had to leave, but if you can help us out, it really does help, because that is literally what keeps us. The prices are going up. Like, I went the gas price, the car price, the food price. Thankfully we have some support with that. But prices, we have to fix houses, we have to fix cars. It was like thousands over. Anyways, it was a lot of money suddenly had to come out, and it's like we could really use it if you do have it. But if you don't have it, because I know everyone is in this crappy economic situation, don't unnecessarily harm yourself by giving us money. But we do need it to keep us running. Anyways, Disco Elysium is like Neofeud. If you have a second to leave, even a very short review, please consider leaving a review for Neofeud if you liked it, because it does help us to get the game out there and found in the Steam algorithm. Which the more reviews that happen, the more likely the game will get witnessed and found when people are browsing, because that's how algorithms work. It really does help us out. You can also get Neofeud on itch.io for Windows. Part of it is the algorithm. I noticed the algorithm is really gearing towards all Ukraine and all like very jingoistic, very one-sided stuff right now, and that's like so coverage of other stuff and just the game and Silver Spook stuff getting discovered. I think that's part of it. Is everything except that is all being pushed way down, and so that has an economic impact, as well. Anyway, so Neofeud is also on Windows, and it's also on Mac and Linux on itch.io. It is on sale on Steam, on itch, and it is also you can give us the most revenue if you pick the game up on itch.io. The maximum percentage of the revenue goes to the creators when you buy the games on itch. You can also check out by the way, so if you like the soundtrack that you're listening to, don't forget you can get the Neofeud soundtrack on Bandcamp, along with other I got lots of albums over there. There's a Neofeud soundtrack, there is cyberpunk, not cyber bougie. If you're like a cyberpunk fan but you like not super hot and into giant mega corporations, racism and capitalism, this is an album that's all about that kind of stuff. I'm just kind of going through all my albums since it was Bandcamp Friday yesterday, and this is a whole album about doing your praxis, global strikes, called Silver Spook Sings. This is a very overtly like War Machine is an anti-war song where everybody is fairly paid. This is about socialism. So I've got lots of albums out there on top of the games. Terminus Machina is the game I made before Neofeud, which is also a game about the things we're talking about. Anyways, so I just thought I would shout that out because I hadn't done that in a little bit. Like if you if you actually want to just buy something, it also helps to support us if you pick up these things, or if you just donate directly to the StreamYard's link, etc. These things all do really help us out a lot. And also, you can support us by grabbing Decolonators. Like I said, speaking of Vietnamese communist women, Decolonators is a game made with myself, a native Hawaiian indigenous activist, as well as Luna Oi, a Vietnamese communist woman, about kicking capitalist colonizers' butts out of Vietnam in retro arcade game glory. So again, this is a game I'm trying my best in a retro arcade game, Contra style game, to do the actual engaging storytelling in a video game that I think we need, right? Which is not just about sad boy white guys that have some flaws, but actual people kicking the butts of actual empire and actual capitalism, actual anti-imperialist games. Anyways, so this game you can check out, and it does help support everything that we do as well. So consider checking that out if you have not yet. Also, Holly has a book called Woman, which is about the life of a woman raised in evangelical. It's a book by a woman raised in evangelical Protestant Christianity. I should bring that up. A Ukrainian woman raised in evangelical Protestant Christianity in Canada, but it is a irreverent retelling of the life of Mary in a way that's kind of dunking in on a right-wing settler Canadian evangelical Protestant Christian culture. So anyways, if that sounds interesting, do check that book out. It's free, or you can also name your price. Also, we have you can follow us at SilverSpook Games, at octodon.social, which is, like I said, Mastodon is a decentralized. Mastodon is not a perfect system either. It's got its own problems and foibles and issues, but it is a decentralized, non-capitalist, open source, federated social media platform. And so you can follow us there. Mastodon is a backup if for some reason, like I've been, when I posted, like I said, I've been removed from Twitter before for just saying, I cited anti-Asian racism to statistics basically and reality, and white people felt very upset about that and got me off of Twitter for some time. And so Mastodon is a backup because there isn't a system like that in Mastodon, and so it's not a Death Star satellite. It's a very, very small life star. But while we have access to the Death Star satellites, and I don't know, in this war propaganda filled moment, it's a dangerous moment for everyone. So I recommend you follow me on the Mastodon just in case. They're cutting off so many services, like half of the entire social media world, the banking system, the digital tech payment system. Corporations are boycotting half of this planet right now. So as far as I know, you can still get everywhere Mastodon, but they're gonna have a harder time. You can't. There's no that's the important thing about Mastodon. There's no corporation that you can directly pressure. There's no corporation that can be directly pressured to cut services off anywhere, because it's fully. It's one bonus about it is very decentralized and open source. So you can't tell Mastodon Corporation to cut off access to X and Y and Z. Now, your ISPs could cut off. The U.S. could put up a Great Firewall of America and stop anything west of Taiwan from coming in. But they have a harder time because it's not a centralized corporation that makes decisions for racialized capitalism and imperialism, which is what corporations do. They do it for the bottom line, which is aligned with the United States, which is the defender of global capitalism. So that's just another. I mean, especially now, it might be if you're thinking, SilverSpook's talking about this thing. You don't have to be on Mastodon every day or anything. I'm not posting a ton to it, but like as a backup, it's a thing that it's one backup. Ideally, and I recommend this to everyone, especially now, have like multiple ways to get in contact. Have a robust, they call it portfolio theory in Wall Street. You want to Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have a diversified portfolio. Have a diversified communication and information consumption and collaboration mechanisms, and also economic and financial mechanisms. Don't have it all in one, because it's a time where a lot of this stuff is being severed. Like I said. Anyway, not to freak anyone out, but it's just a reality. It's just a reality that we have to deal with. So, at SilverSpook Guy is my Twitter. If you want to follow me though, and SilverSpook Games minus the E and silver. SilverSpook Games minus the E and silver is for games related stuff like Neofeud when it goes on sale, Neofeud 2. This is one of my pictures for Neofeud 2. This is called The Homeless Polymimetic Gynoid. An Artisan Gestator was my official title. They have standalone artificial wombs, grow heirs in your parlor, but for the Neofeudal elite, a handmaiden is the status symbol. Sadistic ass or anyways, so I post like updates and like new sneak peeks and teaser material from Neofeud 2, which I'm currently working on from SilverSpook Games accounts. You can also follow Terminus C. Terminus Cyberstar is a low poly cyberpunk immersive sim that I'm the content director and lead writer on this game. That is like in the vein of things like Deus Ex and System Shock. That is currently being worked on. It is a sequel to Terminus Machina, the first flagship SilverSpook Games game, but Terminus Machina is free. You just need Deus Ex. Technically, there's 3 SilverSpook games that are like of any size: Terminus Machina, Neofeud, and Decolonators. And this will be the 4th one if it comes out first. It's Neofeud or this one. I'm not sure which is gonna come out first. But if you wanna follow this game, you can find this game at Terminus Cyberstar. There is a handful of writers, programmers, artists, and musicians working on it. I keep hearing like there's gonna be a major updates. They're like the producer Aaron Victoria is really. I've seen a lot of the recent screenshots. Every time it looks better and better. So they're really like trying to polish and make it better and better each time. And so that's why it's taking a little bit longer than it might have been to come out, because that's just how Aaron. Again, I'm like the content director. I'm like the creative lead kind of. I like select. Okay, we're gonna have these kind of objects. This is the kind of cyborg we're gonna have. This is the mission we're gonna go on. Like I wrote the mission. It's like universal death care. It's about the main like campaign is like trying to survive a privatized, disgustingly hyper expensive healthcare system, and trying to so the missions, the main character also, I want to bring up something to the mass just briefly, because the main character starts off homeless like in Neofeud, either working with homeless people or being nearly homeless, Carl Carbon, like the Max. The main character, the centered character, is a homeless person. Neofeud 2 is the same way. The main character starts off living in his car, and so anyway, so that's I want to say that's a very SilverSpook brand. If there is a bona fide SilverSpook authenticated method, there's a way to authenticate whether it's really a SilverSpook game or if it's an asset flip knockoff aesthetic Unity store purchase of SilverSpook game style inserted into a capitalist charlatan's moneymaker. SilverSpook games will always have centered main character homeless people. I probably shouldn't guarantee that. Actually, Decolonators doesn't have the main character might not be homeless. Well, their home got bombed into the Stone Age, so technically that's still true. Anyways, Terminus Cyberstar. You can also join the Discord there. Thank you so much to all these people on this list. It is greatly appreciated for your patronage and your support, as always. Thanks Big Teal for jumping in there. Thanks Holly Argent. Oh yeah, one more thing I want to say before I forgot this one thing, but I want to say thanks to all the patrons very much. It's hugely appreciated. But oh yeah, and soon there will be a you can follow @_81983 Positive Synergy, another member over here at the SilverSpook Cooperative, and our brother over here on the Big Island of Hawaii. Positive Synergy is another native Hawaiian who does streams on Wednesdays at 5 Pacific time, I believe right now, generally, and talks about Hawaii and problems and issues here, including Red Hill, these history in the Pacific. The most recent was around speaking around the nuclear testing in the Pacific and how that has harmed our Pacific Islands and relatives, particularly in the Marshall Islands. And Positive Synergy is also coming out with an album very soon. It currently is recorded 2, very cool, really good songs. You're gonna like it a lot, So, you can't wish list albums yet, but I just want everybody to know, follow Positive Synergy so you can know when the album comes out. Because we really want to support Positive in all of this, in trying to launch this new musical endeavors. I know it's trying to start any kind of music or games company or career is difficult in the non-COVID times and in any time, and now it's a hard time. So our friend BP just launched an album recently. I was on the non-compete dialectic breadcast Luna Oy and the American Johnson stream this week, talking with BP about anti-capitalist radical left game development, which is something I do. And anyways, the point is, so we want to help our relatives or friends, so be sure to follow and get ready for the album that's going to come out soon. And this is also about so now you got to put that album out. You got to put it out, because otherwise you're making me a liar. I know Positive was planning for some release in the near future, but this will help. This will help encourage that, and also please encourage Positive Synergy in the streams and in the music. Keep showing up. I know Big Teal is in there. Anyway, anyways, so now we will be back in the evening time. There's no panel this week. I can't be doing them necessarily every week, but we will be back in the evening on Twitch at 8 Pacific time. And thanks a lot to Holly Argent, of course, for the moderation and always being the very important social caregiver, social worker, social caregiver in the digital realm, maintaining all this, and also in the offline realm as well, doing so much of that as well. So thanks a lot to Holly Argent as well. All right, everybody.